Welcome everyone to the Faded Connections Path of Exile Community Podcast, episode number 26, if we didn't lose count, skip, or drop one. We're 3 weeks into the Delirium League, and we all had a bunch of great experiences that we want to talk about, and there's also some ongoing drama, as usual, on the Reddit and in the community that will be addressed. But first, I want to introduce you to, obviously, the co-host BalorMage. If you haven't seen him, he's over there. And then we got, in the other corner, Yoji, who's been on the podcast a couple of times. You might have seen him on YouTube videos, such as these great trailers. And then a man who does not need an introduction because he's literally the inventor of the item filter. I over-exaggerated that, but you all know him from the NeverSink item filter and the Filter Blade website associated with it that I like to recommend to you always. Welcome, NeverSink. How have you been?
And hey, everyone. I've been great and actually enjoying that league a lot. So I've had some mixed feelings about it. So wait, are we starting already? So do I give a short intro? All right.
Yeah,
so
I'm
I've
an
been
idiot.
playing that league for. I've ever played Self-Found for once. Usually I'm not playing. I'm just playing softcore. I've decided to play softcore Self-Found this time and really enjoyed it for many reasons. Probably because I didn't have to trade and was a little bit more inventive with my currency and gear. So I've tried a bunch of builds, had some mixed experience with different Delirium stuff, got to experience pretty much every endgame encounter, including Sirus 8, all except for Uber Elder, because I got 5 Uber Elder fragments from Shape of one type and 0 of the other one. So and Chimera doesn't drop, so maybe I won't be fighting Uber Elder this league. But I've been enjoying this league a lot. Thanks.
I think you. People told me about your RNG. People told me that you had such a strong will to play cast on crit that you actually forced 3 Cosprey swords into existence in SSF.
Yeah, they dropped on the first days of Self-Found. So 2 of them dropped, and the third one dropped. And then also I found 2 Cospreys before I started playing any custom crit build. And then I found in the same evening I found a Pandemoniums, 6-linked Carcass Jack, and found and it was on my first I think it was Awaken a Kill T8, I found an Awakened custom crit as well. And so basically all of my best drops happened within one evening, and they were all supporting one build. So that was nice. But the downside to it, I can't really top it. So I've tried several builds afterwards, and it just feels so underwhelming because the Self-Found, I have some currency and random gear, but doesn't add up to a build that's stronger than that. Yeah. So I have some good things for a summoner, good things for a gladiator, bleed character, good things for have an amazing Carrot of Ashring, but I can't just top that combo, and that's a little bit of a problem.
You got handed all the stuff you would have bought to make that build in
so
trade.
I got this like 30-40 X build, including a Soul Tether and a Valju with the right type. So that's like perfect. And now I'm just sitting there on my new Bleed Gladiator, and it's like, well, I could relog back and be twice as effective.
That's actually amazing. Ridiculous. That's pretty He's got crazy. A spare Cospreys to double corrupt.
It got white. It got 3 white sockets.
Oh, he did.
Well, then you got another spare now.
Yeah, that is true.
By the way, this is not usually how solo Self-Found works.
It's not, but I thought that's... Oh.
It's not like you get the same builds just like without trading. It's usually not like this.
No. Yeah, but the builds before that I really enjoyed it. So I got really inventive with some uniques I would otherwise never use. I had a lot more fun with crafting, and aside sorting like huge quad stash steps, not having to trade is a god bless. It's I've seen so many complaints about trade. I'm really happy not having to do that. But yeah, I think we should move on.
Yes, of course. Yoji, do you want to quickly catch us up on what you've been up to in the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I've been starting Delirium actually as a trade league character for the first like 6 days. I played an Inquisitor Elemental Hit Wanderer. and went CI with it because I thought the energy from Nord passive node is so good that it actually can probably carry CI as a league starter, and it actually can. It's absolutely not a problem to get like 7, 8, 9 KS on like day 2 without much problems if you like just stack those. In trade, that worked pretty well, but after like 6-7 days, I realized I kind of like don't like playing ranged as much. My first issue with the character actually was solved because I played it. I didn't like playing it because of shield charge spam, which I just don't enjoy. So I just switched to dash, and dash is the best thing that happened to PoE in like this patch, aside from master missions on the map device. And it's actually so good that on my new character, which could actually use Leap Slam because it's a solo self-found bleed less rate gladiator, I could actually use Leap Slam and it would be perfectly fine, but Dash just feels better, and I have Fortify anyways, so I can use Dash, and I actually got like 30 extra in, so I can max level Second Wind, which I normally would not need on the build, but it's totally worth it. Like, Dash feels so good. And yeah, Bleed Gladiator, actually today, I had like a full day of just playing PoE, and it was pretty amazing RNG. Like I don't think I had a single day where this much stupid RNG happened. So I started off the day by like my first map, like the first pack dropped a Inspired Learning, which like instantly boosted my character up from, okay, I can kind of do tier 15 maps-ish with like some juice to like, okay, I can put like Delirium orbs on my map now, and like if I clear like 2 packs, I have enough power to like kill Kosas, whatever else spawns, and that works pretty well. And then I kind of like wanted to 6-link I found like a temple chest. I wanted to 6-link that for a while, so I was like, maybe I should get quality up. So I got the quality from Hillock and all that. And in the same map that I like leveled up the safe house, I actually found a Fated Connections prophecy. So that was, I think this might be.
Wait, you found the Fated Connections?
I found the podcast prophecy like on the map that I actually like decided now next I want to 6-link my chest. But I decided, okay, I might as well like dump my 300 whatever pure fusings I have into the chest first and see if I can save the prophecy for another character. And it just linked in like 100 fuses. And now I have those prophecies still. And I had another 6-link drop and like 15 other crazy items. I have a eye level 85 Elder Siege Axe drop on like my first Elder Scarab that I used, and that was also pretty good. I have like basically everything I need on the character except like Alliance Roar now in bases, but I still need to craft everything. So my current life is like alteration and chaos farming. But yeah, and Lacerate is really, really good. Was really surprised. I've not played like any bleed stuff before, and it's insane what this character can do with like nothing. I had like 200-300 DPS access and was able to do like tier 16 maps like decently well. And now that I have actual gear, I can like do Sirus whatever, and it's no problem.
Really that good? Wow.
It is. It's really, really good. It's like not like insane DPS, but you're also tanky, so you can just like stand there, smack bosses in the face a bit, and they will fall over pretty quickly.
I've tried Gladiator with Siege Axes, so I had one Bleed Siege Axe self-crafted and one Soul Taker just today, and it felt pretty overwhelming. I switched to Bow build afterwards, and Bow Bleed felt so much smoother, especially with the Asylum helmet.
Yep. I played like Bow Bleed before, but I don't like ranged. I prefer melee. I mean, Lacerate kind of feels like a cheeky projectile skill a bit, but I actually prefer it because like I like the Fortify a lot better, just like having it up all the time and like being tanky. And yeah, the bow kind of like needs some gear to work. So I wanted to start out in SSF, and I had like a 1 week late start because I played some trade, and you can't like convert from trade to SSF, obviously, only the other way. And I kind of wanted like to have the bit of a low budget build. The good thing is I could like respec into bleed bows like at any point if I feel like it.
The tree for those is pretty much the same, right? Like very close.
Yeah, you put like in like a Lioneye jewel and then your bows.
Yeah, and if you don't have a Lioneye jewel, just get another cluster jewels and you're doing
well.
or
you could do that. But the Lioneye jewel with the axe nodes is pretty nice because you get like onslaught on kill and like the faster bleed stuff, which is pretty good.
There's no weapon specific nodes at all in the tree, or
it's just the axe nodes that you convert with a Lioneye jewel.
Okay, right.
And I have like dual wield nodes, like the one cluster below duelist. Everything else is just the bleed nodes and clusters. Like the damage over time, physical damage over time stuff you get is like really, really good. Oh, I think I also have one specific cluster jewel, that the axes and swords one that gives you rage 1 per second, which is kind of like nice
Ooh,
to
yeah.
add with clear. I just found that today as well. I found like 90% of my gear that I use now just today because it's all really crazy.
That's awesome. So
I really should play more SSF.
go for it.
It's really, really fun.
I just really hate picking things up off the floor.
You don't like to
that's-
loot in a loot-based ARPG?
No, no. Every time I get to turn something off in the filter, it makes me happy. I got to turn 6 socket items off the other day, and that made me incredibly happy.
I mean, I
Like,
turned
don't
off like
pick up anything.
I turned off like fuses and all that kind of stuff as well now because I have like faded connections and 2k jewelers, so my next 6 link is saved and won't roll more than like 3 characters a league. So I got like all the 6 links I ever need. So just like jewelers, fuses, gone.
Yeah.
Axes are also now turned off because I have like the Elder Siege Axe. I won't find a normal Siege Axe that is better than the bleed one, so that's also not
Yeah,
happening.
I don't know. I just don't like every time something gets to be able to be turned off and I get to not pick up stuff again. I'm happy about it.
The only
But
thing
that's the
that
same in SSF, dude. Like, eventually you reach the point that you can switch certain things off. It just takes longer. It's basically like the same with SSF, with every other aspect of the game.
Pretty much.
Just
kinda
takes
like once-
longer.
it's kind of like once you have like, let's say like one influence curse and hit ring and like another one is like, I don't know, like a steel ring on your attack with or whatever, you don't pick up like coral rings or whatever anymore because it doesn't make sense. They can't be an upgrade anymore. You basically, your base already is better, and then you just like turn off one by one. I think after like 2 weeks of SSF, you normally have like a pretty similar filter to what a trade filter looks like.
Pretty much the same, yeah. And you don't have to trade, so if it's
Yep.
a pretty much filter of the same strictness. But it has its downside. So I found myself several times sorting out 3 quad stash steps in SSF, and it feels every time an excruciating pain because it takes around 1 hour of time to clean those up. So, and that's with a filter that's basically higher strictness, if not higher. So it's like most things disabled. Also, no 6 sockets, not anything. Might have been a mistake because right now I have no sockets, no fuses, no iterations, no chaos. But
you can use your, like for leveling and stuff for like new characters. I actually in SSF used all those binding orbs that you never use. While leveling, they're just like so good. So I may actually have a leveling filter that just highlights the bases and not the rares, and I just binding orb everything that's a good base and usually kind of gets me through leveling, which is kind of like a fun self-craft way of leveling. If you like I personally don't like keeping a huge stack of leveling uniques because I usually prefer to sell them for like alch shards. So I just use
so
the
people
bindings
use
for
binding orbs. Fascinating.
Yeah.
I don't
Forgotten currency
Even-
orbs.
I don't even know if I'm picking. Do they have a spot in the stash tab? Do I even have
yes,
some?
I've hidden them. I've never used them.
Since this league, they
You
actually
can
have
use
a
them on
spot in the
maps,
stash
though,
tab. Yeah,
right?
yeah, you can actually alch your maps with them as well.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, but
But this league, for some reason, I have like no trouble with alchemy sustain in
Mhm.
SSF, which is crazy. Actually, scouring orbs is my biggest problem because I'm also chanting,
That's
so I can't.
closely connected, though. Yeah.
Yeah, but I
alterations.
can't. Yeah, and alterations, of course, because like cluster jewel rolling and like the Siege Axe now has eaten like hundreds, and I'm still not happy with the result.
I'm in trade, so I don't have but I haven't bought alchemies, and I have like 850,
And scours?
700.
Oh, that's a lot. I
Just
have like
checking right now.
20 scours right now. I'm like really low on scourings.
Oh,
But
I know, like,
I've been crafting a ton.
I
I'm
have
always
3
out of
scours.
scours.
3
many?
scours, 9 chaos orbs, 7 alterations, and 100 alchemies.
But
And
the thing is,
100 alks.
every
Yep.
time I get a scour, I use it on a crafting base because I'm like every time I get like 10 or so, I spam 10
Yeah,
scours on some base where I'm like, hey, maybe I could get a good amulet
Mhm.
that I could work with or something, and then in between I spam them on my maps when I don't have when I want to run a map, but I keep rolling reflect or what's the one thing that I don't want to run? Additional prot.
No region, additional prot, stuff like this. Yeah, like the usual annoying mods.
Yeah, the stuff that you roll 5 times in a row when you can't run it with your build.
But it
and
has
then-
its bright side. I've so enjoyed just crafting things, like spending exalted orbs on items, spending all kind of high currency on items. So I'm thinking it's just so fun on cell phone because I'm used to, okay, so I want that item. I have my 50x or 100x. I'm just going to buy it, no problem. whatever. And this time it really tried new strategies, used up all of my essences, tried a lot of different things. So that's super good in this league.
Yeah, it's not like a trade where you just like pick up essences and never use them. At least I used to do that. I was like, oh, I have a full essence tab. Cool. Why do I pick them up again? I've never, like, sometimes, like, very rarely I lose like 1 or 2 of the like corrupted ones where, oh, I want Delirium gloves, and you use them all, like 5 of them or whatever you have, and then you buy the rest. But in SSF, I actually use like I don't know, if I want a piece with like cold resistance, I will replace my gloves, but I need the cold res. I use like the cold res essence just like to get craft and upgrade.
Yeah. I don't think
Essences are
good. I've been collecting essences for like 7 or 8 leagues now. There are just remove only tabs that are just like full. They're just like rainbow stash tabs that I just bring to standard with me. They don't do anything. I never use them, but I keep picking them up.
I mean, theoretically, they're pretty good, right?
They are good. They're
Well,
like
they
3
are,
alchemists
though.
plus.
Plus, they got a massive buff this league with the fact that like so
Yeah.
many fossil exclusive mods are not fossil exclusive, but on the actual basis.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure I should be using them now. Like,
Yeah, I actually like.
on
Yeah, if you
influence
want to craft
basis.
something, like for example, on the Siege Axe, I put like all my contempt essence that I had because I would guarantee the flat fizz, and I still had the chance to roll like the fossil mod. Previously,
Yeah.
you basically it's actually like almost better. It's actually not better than fossil crafting because I corroded plus jagged is still better.
Yeah, so usually I'm trying fossil crafting first. If that doesn't work out, I move to essences. If that doesn't work out, I'm basing all of my chaos ops and maybe some scour and alchemies. But
yeah, and if that doesn't work, I'm like currently like alteration crafting because I kind of really only need like 2 to 3 good mods, like the bleed mod and like one good attack mod would already be good enough to multi-mod. But I still refuse to exalted orb any gear because I always like do Leo if I can.
I've done so many stupid exalted op slams this league, and some of them actually worked out. I think the stupidest things I've done is I forgot that an item can have 3 crafted mods, includes the meta mod itself. So I've used that mod and crafted 2 mods, and then I was like, oh damn, I can't apply the 3rd one. So that was a little bit of an embarrassing story, but otherwise did a lot of slams, even slammed like 3 or 4 cluster jewels with exalted orbs. Some of
Did
them
any of
worked
those
out.
pay off, or did you just
Yes,
get like
yes,
4
yes.
fire
2 of them
rats?
put up.
It actually oftentimes paid off, I found. If you like a bit smart about it, if you like alterate and regal the rare mod that you want on it, and then you like slam for the more common mod, that actually works way better than the other way around. But I still use like a Leo if I can. I currently like waiting for the next safe
That's
house.
always an SSF, right? You always try to use the Leo when you can.
Yeah, I want to keep the
bench.
Yeah, I want to keep like the exalted for the bench. I want the like high tier percent fizz craft is 1 axe each for both of my axes. So that's a lot. And then multi-mod is another like 2x. And I currently have 3x, so I can finish the 1 axe that I have with my exalteds. And then I only can use Leo until I find another one.
You have to make a sentence with as many x as possible, like where you also like a mathematical
Exalted
equation
and
x
x's.
equals x with x.
If
Anyway.
x equals 5x, then...
Balor, what has your trade madness led you to playing in the past week or 2 since the last podcast?
Archmage, just almost exclusively. Just
It's so good.
continued. It's currently doing 9.5 million per brand. Not total, per brand, and that's Shaper DPS. So it's an 18 million DPS build that can move constantly and never has to recast and never has to.
Is that without any
target
buffs
mob
up, or with Arcane Surge, or?
No. Well, I've got Arcane. That's just my normal uptime DPS. That's not counting Arcane Cloak. That's not counting Valrighteous Fire. That's nothing. That's just I can just maintain that forever.
Wow.
That's just
Is
the
that
normal.
like a crit version, a non-crit version?
Yeah,
low life.
It's crit. It's a low life Ivory Tower.
Archmage.
Right.
That's pretty good.
So I've got like 5.7k energy shield.
That's not a lot.
10,000 mana.
No.
It's not a lot, and 10,000 mana. I can, and this is the way I've been playing it until recently. I can push it up to like 8,500 energy shield.
Yeah, that would probably make
But
like
then
more
my
survivability
DPS is
sense.
only 4.5 million per brand on Shaper.
But it kind of sounds
So
like
it's only
that
like
would be the more
9 million
playable
total.
build.
Yeah, it sounds better. Then you can drop the custom death portal.
I don't have room for that.
A friend of mine did this league. He started out with a very, very glass cannoneer mine build. At some point, he ended up dying in Delirium all the time. So he opted in for custom death portal. He was surprisingly impressed with it before he entered the simulacrum, and he entered on all the mobs that were standing around him. So that didn't work out quite well.
Yeah, I imagine that.
What I do have to mention though is I won't be playing another build again that doesn't have 155 decks.
Yep.
Because that's
Dash.
how much
Yep.
level 20
Dash.
dash costs. And if you haven't used dash, I'm going to tell you not to, because you'll never be able to play a build that doesn't have dash again.
Yep.
If
Exactly.
your build struggles for decks, if you've got no decks on the tree, you're just going to end up forcing it somehow. If you have to take no dex nodes on the tree, and I will spend another 20 or 30 exalts on my gear purely to fit in dash. That's how good it is. Like, if that's the extra, then I'm paying it.
I absolutely don't care about the Herald nerfs and the upcoming Archmage nerfs. All those things is probably going to happen. But I'm really afraid of GG breaking dash into some sort of flame dash version.
Yeah, it's so good.
I mean,
It's so good
always
that I now-
instant. Yeah, it is not affected by any like slows or temp chains or cast speed reduction, attack speed, whatever. It's just like press button, dash, thank you. That's everything you need.
It's so good that we're counting it now as a defensive layer in my build as well.
Yep, I see it as a defensive layer as well. It's like the most reliable like dodge move. Yeah, it kind of feels like the Dark Souls dodge roll. Like it feels like a mechanic any character should have to dodge abilities of bosses.
It's the first. I didn't realize that's how movement skills should feel, but that's how they should all feel. Like that's been nailed. That's whatever they've done with that. That's the only way I want to move now. Also,
Do you think it's
if you get
slightly
enough
too
cooldown
strong?
reduction,
I mean, don't you think it would be still fine even if they nerf it like a little bit?
no, don't touch my dash.
Yeah, just I think that what they can
don't.
like reduce on dash is like the dex requirement. I would be fine with that. So like 0, then make it a white gem, and not make it use a slot and put it on any character as a default dodge mechanic that every character
Okay,
has.
no, I'd be fine with
that.
every character having that by default. Like I always thought it would be nice for every character to have some sort of, maybe even like, yeah. No, I mean, I don't want to confront you with the idea of reducing the power a little bit.
Nope, not taking it.
Nope. It just feels
Also,
right.
if you link it with Empower in like a plus level thing, it goes really, really long. It probably doesn't need to go that long. That's
But you
Oh
can
my
also
god,
like,
now I have to use for my level 4 Empower.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you can also link enhance if you have like really like wasting some gem sockets, so like reduce the cooldown a tiny bit more. That's also kind of nice.
Also, there's a +2 charges helm enchant for dash.
I actually don't feel I need that.
What?
And if you get it, you don't need a Quicksilver anymore. And I'm talking like a Alchemist Quicksilver flask of adrenaline becomes irrelevant. You can replace it with a unique one, and you won't even care because you can just dash everywhere.
Okay, maybe that could be something they can take away, and I wouldn't.
The helm
use that.
enchant is a little OP.
I got
They're
know,
gonna give the helm enchant the molten strike treatment. They're gonna reduce the 2+1 maybe.
I actually got the other dash helm enchant that is pretty good today. I like played around with it a little bit. It's the 65%, I think it is, dash range increase. It's 65, 25. It's like a pretty high number. Actually, like it feels really, really noticeable.
So it turns it into flame dash.
Yeah, I think it's like
it's already longer than Flame Dash.
I think it's a bit longer than it's not long, like default like level 20 dash is not longer than level 20 flame dash.
It
Flame
most
dash
certainly
further now.
is.
No, it's not.
I don't
Like
think
that-
it is, but
It says on the gem like the range is longer of flame dash, but it's not. It's not by
I've
much
never-
anymore.
I've never read it.
But
but
with the
I'm-
helm
I
enchant,
just-
definitely not.
I'm positive it's longer.
That's pretty crazy.
I'd be oh maybe it's because mine's already been sitting in like plus levels and stuff.
Yeah, with plus levels, I guess. I mean, you could. I don't know if like does Flame Dash gain range? I think it only gains
Flame
cooldown
Dash is the
reduction.
same at 1 and 20. It makes no difference.
No, but I'm happy with. I like Dash. Dash feels really good.
Yeah.
I just tried it on my latest build. And people have been telling me before, still while I was playing the Animate Weapon Summoner Necro, that I tried to make work. Where I was so lucky on that build. I got the +1 Corrupt on the second try on my 2020 Animate Weapon. And I got a Jinx Juju, and everything was coming together so nice. And then I wanted to do a Baron, and I just walked into those Baron Storm calls. And it's like, instantly shock stacked to death.
Yep.
It was so unavoidable. Like, after I had made the commitment of moving there. And I feel like the Baron Storm calls, like the Baron Mob Storm calls, are also not really super visible. Maybe they could get the same treatment as the corpse explosions from the Revenants, which are really nice now. They have like this pillar that goes up.
The beam, right?
Yeah, like the loot beam, exactly. That's a lot better. I mean, you still have the problem with those that your minions could kill them off screen, and you could just jump into them without ever having known that they will be there. But I mean, that's also the case with Barras, with a lot of that stuff. But yeah, after I said goodbye to the Necro, I was like, I was so lucky, I'm not gonna get any of this gear again. I actually also have had 2 Faded Connections from Navali this league.
From Navali as well.
Yeah, that was like, no idea. Like, when I got the first one, I was like, oh, yeah.
Prophecies from Navali? I thought they just
People who
dropped on
use
the
their
floor now.
silver
That's...
I mean, I also like spam Navali every few, I don't know, map rolls that I think about. Oh yeah, prophecies. Okay, next.
Sometimes you get good stuff. But when I got the first one, I laughed, but then the second one was just insanity. What did you want to say? Sorry?
I actually got mine from like Delirium. I put a Prophecy Delirium orb on the map and like juiced it up to as far as my character can handle otherwise, and that dropped from that thing. You actually get a lot of prophecies. Like, you don't even have to do like the chains anymore. You could just like wait till you drop all the like level 5 prophecies. You just put them in for the council, and then you put like them in for the, what's the other thing? Before the Kintsugi, you just wait for the Deadly Rivalry 5 to drop, and that's it. Like, the whole prophecy chains are kind of like overridden by just like the prophecies dropping from like Legion and Delirium and whatnot.
Yeah, I've got a whole tab full of prophecies that I spam use as much as I can, but I've turned silver coins off.
Oh, so you don't even pick up like silver coins? You just pick up prophecies?
Because there's so many prophecies on the ground, I can't possibly use them all. Yeah, so I've got all of the good mapping prophecies that I want are there on my filter, and I just spam click them every few maps from the stash tab, but I don't even pick up silver coins. Like, there's nothing. They're just, prophecies are just on the floor already. I've
disabled silver coins already since quite some time, but I have like 500 lying around. Maybe I'll use some time to just spam through them. Maybe I'll get Fate Connection as well, or at least something.
Yeah, make sure to block some bad prophecies.
Yeah. You can also get like some of the Fated uniques, which can be kind of fun to play around with.
Some of those are pretty nice.
Yeah.
I've been looking for the prophecy for the Joffrey helmet upgrade, because I got one with a neat enchant, so maybe that, we'll see. But in general, yeah, I kind of enjoy the fact that you can find a lot of prophecies now that are actually usable.
Yep. Also, enchanted helmets without running the lab is kind of nice in SSF as well. Although lab today was pretty good, actually. It's like the first good lab day of the league since I started SSF. Still didn't run it because I hate that thing, but
there's no such thing as a good lab day.
I mean, today was like really good lab day.
There are just days when it's less cancerous to run lab.
I mean, yeah, you can see when like a good lab day happens is like the in softcore trade, the prices of the offerings go up by like twice as much. That's usually, I don't actually check the lab layout because I can't really judge if it's good or not. I just like, if I start a PlayStation, I just check if the price went up, and that means, I guess the lab has to be good now. Yeah, some like dark shrines and stuff. I guess that's probably good. Okay, I have no idea how lab running works, but
It's
all
just
those
like-
people.
It's just like offerings went from 1C to 4C. This must be the best lab day ever. Let's go run lab.
Yeah.
And twice enchanted.
Yeah, whenever they go up to like twice as much, usually like 2 to 3 chaos, and they go up to like 5 to 6 chaos. That's when it's a good lab day.
I haven't checked, but I assume this league they're worth a chaos or less. I assume that because I've got well over 100 and I have run exactly 6 trials. And 3 of them were not in my own map.
That's something that I stopped picking up in SSF because once I got like 5 or so, or 10, that's more than I will ever run. So yeah, that works.
Yeah, I got about 100 or so and then turned it off on the filter. I was like, why am I still picking these up? I'm like, this is 4 more leagues worth of offerings for me. I'm not a lab farmer. I'm not doing that.
I've turned off sacrifice fragments for the first time because you're getting spammed. Even some scarabs, even some incubators, because you're getting spammed with them. And the game now gives you consistently more content and more items that you can effectively use.
Yep.
Which have sometimes a little bit mixed feelings about that. So I actually liked incubators being kind of a cool thing. And now you're getting so many incubators, you don't even want to use them because every time you run Delirium map, you get the loot from 10 incubators.
I have turned off about 1/3 of the incubators from the filter. And I'm also just like, I'm almost giving them away. Like, just like, all right. Like there's some people that I sometimes play with. Not just like to random people, but I'm just like, yeah, who wants like 48 fragment incubators just to clear up this stash tab? Who's got room? Because there's too many. I can't. Every single time I empty it, I cover myself in eggs again, and I just can't run out of them. And I'm only using the good ones. I've hidden all the bad ones. And I still can't use them all. And so that brings me to how many different league rewards are we supposed to get from the new league mechanics every time? Like, ignoring the actual mechanic of Delirium, is that a fantastic reward structure to just hand me way more than I ever got of the thing in the league?
Yeah, exactly. More
Just
Legion
out of
splinters
the
than a
new
Legion.
one. Yeah, like I've got way more Legion splinters than I ever had in Legion. I've got way more scarabs than I ever had. Well, I don't know when scarabs came out. I don't know what that was.
I
Betrayal.
have a big complaint about that. I kind of dislike that strategy. Something I really like is, or would prefer if, let's say if I want to farm scarabs, I would like that scarabs will be more or less abundant if I run a lot of Betrayal. If I want to farm oils, I would prefer that oils primarily are found from Blight. And right now it feels like if you want to get loot, you go Delirium. If you want to do something else, you don't go Delirium. And Delirium right now feels like the best strategy to get all kind of loot, no matter what it is. With some rare exceptions, you're just getting way too much. I mean, I've self-found I've set at 25 soft breach stones. Just run them all to level my character. That's insane. And I don't even display any splinters, so I never pick them up. So you just find random breach stones from all kind of rewards. You get like 1 breach rewards and you find 3 breach stones. It's just ridiculous.
Full breach stones. Like what?
Yeah, pure ones.
Like the first one I got was like a Shayula breach stone from like the first thing. I was like, wait, is this like what normally happens? And Shayula is not what normally happens, but you get way too many breach stones. Like the first breach Delirium orb that I used got me like, I think like 8 or 9 breach stones. And that's like, that alone, like from one map, you get so much, like 9 other basically map content level items that you can run from one map. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm not a fan of that. I don't think that current looting strategy is healthy for the game or is healthy for like progression, because afterwards GG is kind of in a strange situation. Either they nerf it down and it's going to be fun underwhelming, or they have to like bump it up once again and a lot of loot will just become so obsolete. So it feels like this needs to somewhat change, because I don't see I kind of like something I'm going to play as a devil's advocate here. For instance, I don't like the fact that if I find the Zana, the best strategy is to only run the really good maps if I want to run them. Otherwise, I'm just skipping Zana. And I don't like that. I prefer map sustain to be also at least a little bit of an issue. Right now, you can just run to the boss, might kind of make a line out of that mobs on the way there. If it's a linear map, I'm going to kill more. If it's a non-linear map, I'm going to skip more, and then I can get out of the map because I don't need any more maps. I get enough maps just as is. And the game kind of becomes from... a lot of strategy kind of dies there. Not a huge fan of that.
It's it. Like the actual Delirium League, I love. It's just the reward structure. I'm not. I don't.
Yeah.
I do think that whatever the current league is, should probably be the most rewarding content to run. But I don't think that has to mean the most rewarding way to get every single kind of thing that exists.
Yes.
Right. Like that doesn't. I don't mind if my new league content will occasionally give me a blighted map, but I should get the majority of my blighted maps from blight encounters, right? Like that should be.
Run them though? Like I think I saw a lot of people who skip them.
No, I have like 30 blighted maps lying around already because if you run blighted maps, you get so much content just to stash tabs, to sort tabs. So I sort content by how little reward do I get that I need to sort out. So it's like, if it's a Cortex, I get one expensive item, maybe some shards. It's great. If I'm running a blighted map, it's just a lot of loot, and I hate it. And
blighted maps just take so long to loot afterwards. Like you get a lot of good stuff from it, and the running them is actually fun and different to other content. So I like running them. But I've actually only run like 2 of them this league so far from the I think like 20 something I have lying around. Because first of all, I always feel like that kills my PC, and the other thing is that I'm always like taking forever to like sort stuff out afterwards. So yeah, that's it's kind of like the whole thing where you like stack up thumb tabs, and the longer you wait to stack them up, the worse it becomes to eventually sort them all out, because you will eventually like either buy new ones or run out. I've done both, by the way, which I'm kind of a bit ashamed to admit. And blighted maps, like the more blighted maps I stack up, the worse the problem becomes, because they are worth running, especially in SSF, but it will be like more of a hassle to run them.
What you'll end up doing is you won't run them until suddenly you decide, oh, I've got this thing and I really need a golden oil. Oh well, I guess it's time to run all these things now.
I got like all the oils I'll ever need, I think. For now, I got like so many oils.
Yeah, but that's exactly how I would prefer the game to feel. So if I want to run blighted maps, it's like, oh well, I want a golden oil, and I'm going to run blighted maps. And right now it feels like with many types of loot, you just don't have any reason to run them. So I have a lot of Harbinger maps lying around, and there's no reason to run them, like not at all, because running a Harbinger map feels a little bit, there's experience, but otherwise the reward at the end doesn't feel at all exclusive. You're getting way more Harbinger-related stuff everywhere else.
I mean, Harbinger is like, if you want ancient orbs, it's probably still like one of the better ways to get them, and they're the uniques that you have to piece together, which are pretty hard to get.
Yes,
like,
that's a problem. That's a problem.
But you can actually find the Harbinger fragments from the Delirium as well. I got like 2 fragments from the Delirium thing so far. And that kind of broke my heart a little bit, because that used to be like one of the few things where it's like, you can't get this anywhere else.
You can get it from the temple.
Or buy it. That's it.
You can get it from the temple as well.
Oh yeah, you can. Yeah, that's true. But yeah, I got it from like the hobby reward type. I think Betrayal kind of nails that the best, that you actually have reason to run specific things within Betrayal that you maybe can get somewhere else as well, such as like enriched breach stones or whatever, but you can actually target farm it and like force the outcome. So it is oftentimes the most like the best way to get that outcome quickly, especially in SSF. For example, if I want to slam items, I can use Exalted Orbs, yes, but if I don't want to, I put Leo as the leader of research, rank him up, and get 2 slams, and that's still worth something. Or if you want Scarabs, it is actually still pretty good to run. Like, for example, I'm stacking up currently like Metamorph Scarabs, a lot of those, and LS Scarabs when I was still farming Elder bases. And Betrayal is still one of the better ways to like target farm specific Scarabs. If I just want Scarabs to put on my maps to make them more rewarding, Delirium does that, I think, better. Just like masses of scarabs. But if I want a specific scarab, that's where Betrayal is pretty good.
I love Betrayal,
I
dude.
think-
I just always
Yeah.
run out of Junes. But I think.
Same here.
Sorry, you're first, Balor.
I just gonna say, I think once you get to like properly juicing endgame maps, you get more scarabs than you can possibly use as well.
I got
Because
more, but I
you
don't
get-
have. I want like when I was farming Elder bases, I wanted Elder scarabs, and
Well,
I
I'm
get
talking like
there are so many different scarab types. Even if like I get like I think
Yeah.
I mean I'm currently running like 40% Delirium fully scarabed tier 16 maps with sextants, because 40% is like all I can handle, and I got a lot of scarabs, but don't get enough like of a specific type, so I had to like sustain
you run the
them a bit more.
simulacrums.
I have not done a single simulacrum yet. I have like I think like 8 or 9 lying around.
Right,
But-
that's where probably 85% of my scarabs come from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So once you decide you want to run them, you'll never need scarabs again.
Yeah, like seeing how I mean I can like do courses whatever in maps, but I think the mods on there are pretty crazy. So I kind of wanted basically today's RNG kind of fixed that, and then now I can probably run simulacrums with like inspired learning and by like new gear, and especially once I got the DPS from the new axe. But like before that, I was kind of like didn't want to screw them up too hard and like die too much in the early waves.
I hate Courses. Just want to put it out there. So like from all the new additions, Courses is like this one mob I so hate.
I actually think he's really cool. Like at least in maps, I've only encountered him in like tier 6. Can he drop spawn in like lower than tier 16 maps? I've only had him spawn in tier 16 maps. And the first time he spawned, he actually spawned like right next to the other fat guy. Like they both spawned within like I clicked a blight and ran to build like towers, and suddenly boom, the two fatties spawn. I was like, oh, okay, shit. And I had to like kite them apart because together they are a bit nasty.
I don't know. Kozis feels like the other guy is kind of predictable, but Kozis has a strange pattern here. You can cycle around him and he doesn't do anything. His attacks are easily avoidable, but sometimes he just one-shots you. He flicker strikes you and one-shots you with his flicker strike. That's kind of... It feels like every time I encounter Kozis, it either goes flawlessly or perfect, or he kills me with his flicker strike one-shot at 7k or 8k ES. And that's like... Yeah...
I so far only had the flawless type of situations, actually.
As far as I can tell, that flicker strike is more like a blink, and he targets a location under you, disappears, and then reappears about a third of a second later at that location and hits. Which means if you never stop moving, he never touches you.
For me, he always teleports away from me. Like I always have to chase him down, and he always slams like away from me.
Well, you can also
Every
make the
single
black
time.
holes explode.
Every single time, I'm like hitting him because like I have to like get close with like lacerate, and then he just like will like either do like the barrage or whatever he does to spawn like the balls or laser, or he just like teleport slams like one screen away. That's usually what he does, and then I have to chase him down again.
Like, come back, we were fighting.
Yeah, I was like fighting. He's like nope, and then usually like when he's far away, he will like charge up one of the range attacks, which I then have to dodge.
Also, a bit of a nitpick. I would wish the bosses in the maps could drop unique Delirium jewels. It feels a little bit
They
underwhelming.
can. I got
They
two.
can?
Can.
Yes,
Seriously?
I got 2 of the keystone jewels. Yeah.
How unlucky was I? I fought like dozens of them, and I got.
Yeah, me too. And I got 2.
I didn't get a single passive jewel. So I have like 3 megalomaniacs and 3 split personalities. But otherwise, I have 5 armors, around 10 helmets, and around 5 gloves.
I think that they can't drop voices in maps. At least I've not heard of anyone dropping 3 voices in maps.
I think the ones with the sockets can only drop in Simulacrum from what most people assume. And I got 2 of the keystone ones in the maps. I got like
all the keystone ones.
the bleed projectile one, and like another one that's not very. Didn't get any of the ones that I've thought about using. So it's kind of sad.
I got 2 of the hollow palmed ones when at the beginning of the league, before anyone did it, when they were 30C, and sold them both.
No.
For 30 chaos.
And then Mathel made a build, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was worth like 4x for a while.
Yeah. I got the Val guard skill, non-Val guard skill one. That's kind of like interesting-ish, but it's not that cool because you don't want to take like 20% more damage after the buff.
Yeah.
And what's the other one I got? I think it's like the projectile bleed knockback thingy. Like you can't pierce fork chain. You always bleed knockback and something else. I think maim or whatever. Yeah. I don't know if that's any good. Like most like bleed nodes have bleed chance anyway, so you always bleed is kind of like whatever.
It's not gonna help your puncture.
That as well. Like,
Yeah.
the bleed chance is not the issue, so I don't think this is all like the knockback. Maybe you can probably do something really stupid with like your projectile skills always knockback and like reverse knockback and whatever. That's probably something silly that Joust is already doing right now, but yeah, I don't know.
Be like a Rain of Arrows totem build with reverse knockback gloves.
Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, the what's called the tactical nuke with the boots. Like when mobs hit you. Yeah, you can do that pretty well with that as well.
Maybe just really scale the stuff differently. Just get as much fizz and attack speed as possible and crit. Get perfect agony and just don't get the bleed chance nodes. And just get damage over time cluster jewels.
You could probably do something like a Deadeye, but then you can't chain, so Deadeye is kind of like feels weird, man.
Yeah, that's true.
Like no pierce, no fork, no chain. It's just really strange. Although there's some things where like especially the pierce or whatever is like kind of like a downside. Where you normally want something else, so removing it could be good, but I can't really. I thought about it for a while now. I couldn't really think of any like really good use case where I'm like, yeah, this jewel actually has a really really powerful use.
Yeah, I haven't either, but I generally like the idea of, doing this unimaginable thing where like all bow builds, all projectile builds have some sort of either chain, pierce, or fork because it's so efficient, and then providing a build option excluding all of those and giving some other kind of power. I just don't know whether it's good enough. Like I haven't.
It feels like it's just not enough or not the right type of power.
I don't think it's just enough. So if it would be something more interesting, maybe it would be worth it. But right now, it's just why would you use it?
It's an attempt at an interesting trade-off.
Yes.
Well, even if the thing said your bleeds deal double damage, you would still you'd then be considering, can I make this work with this thing? Because not piercing, forking, or chaining is very, very. That's a huge downside.
Yeah, I think in terms of those downsides. Oh, sorry.
I guess with that, like Roa would make sense and would kind of work probably. With like a large damage boosts, it kind of like makes up for it not being puncture, basically.
I think Asylum or the Asylum helmet gets it really right this league, so that was a nice concept, even if it might be a little bit strong of how you modify skills in an interesting way. So it leaves a lot of to creativity. You can also make things except for puncture with that. So that's a big trade-off with an interesting downside, with an interesting advantage. And so in terms of
Asylum is the charge helm, right? Like the charge bow skill. They charge up and then you release and they like fire the bow skill.
Yeah, I really want to make something with Elemental Hit with that, but I'm missing a combat focus jewel.
Ah, right. Yeah, Elemental Hit was like the second thing after puncture that I thought about as well. Like getting that thing double corrupted for like plus elemental.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right now I'm using puncture with it and it's pretty good, but it takes a while to charge, so it has its downsides.
Yep.
I heard it's pretty amazing damage though.
4.
Yep.
Yeah, but it doesn't come close to the levels of Archmage or Herald builds, but it's still pretty good.
Yeah, Archmage numbers seem a bit inflated. I think that's like one case where I'm like, the concept overall is really cool, and it's maybe a bit like the numbers are really really high. And
I don't know what they were thinking with not doing a roll range. That's probably what you want to say, right?
No, I think the thing is that it makes it a bit too good for the numbers. Like, it would be okay if the damage would be completely insane if they had like a downside, but it basically only has an upside because mana scaling has so many other uses that if you scale your mana, it's like defenses if you're playing MOM, it's like defenses if you're playing ES, and there's like other utility you can add from all directions to your character just through the mana scaling.
I think
There's
the
a
main
general
problem is that there's no roll range, that it adds a percentage of your mana as lightning damage, and there's no
Nah.
minimum and no maximum. It's just that damage.
Even if it would be like from 1 to the maximum, it would still be overpowered as hell. So the Yoji, I think Yoji is actually on point in that. So most very overpowered mechanics in PoE are usually based around the assumption that you can scale both your defensive and your offensive ability with the same thing. So mana is a great example. Same thing with the hero jewels. You were able to scale everything just of those hero jewels. You don't need anything else. And it's like the same example here. So this the Archmage just benefits a lot from you receiving amazing amounts of damage and defense. Like compared to everything else, is just on another level. It like maybe with the only exception being pre-nerf hero jewels. It's just pretty crazy broken.
I'm gonna disagree, and I'm gonna say Archmage isn't a problem. I'm gonna say fevered minds are a problem, and those should be limit 1, and then your problem is solved.
That would definitely make it a lot like
that. I'm wearing 6 of them.
You would have
That's the reason I've got all of the damage.
Say, you actually have to do like different things to scale it. You can't just like have this one jewel 6 times and be like, yep, that works. But you actually would have to scale different things.
It might be that the number on Archmage is just too high.
Yeah, I think that might be the case.
Absolutely.
Well. But if I take out all my fevered minds from 6 to 1, I go from a 9 million DPS build to a 2 million DPS build.
Are you using the gloves or the wand?
I'm using just the gloves, not the wand.
Yeah.
So I go from 9 to 2 if I lose all my fevered minds but 1.
Well, I'm not sure. So I haven't played it myself. I'm missing either Ivory Tower, Cloak of Defiance, or Chevrons in order to properly start an Archmage build. I have 2 fevered minds. But from just looking at the number, it seems like the amount of damage and defense you get with the same amount of investment just really seems off the chart. So there's like this linear scaling for most builds. Most builds are sort of on this balance chart. And those builds are a little bit boring. It's like your general Bleed Gladiator, general Summoner, general Divine Ire build, general Miner. Some things that perform better. Some things like Miner builds have like amazing single target, but very clunky to play. And then there's those builds that just seem to cheat those rules. They seem to perform very over average for the amount of passive points and gear you spend. And it feels like, at least to me, from what I've seen so far, it feels like Archmage is on that way too high chart. Maybe it's the numbers, maybe it's the fevered minds. I'm not sure. So just from looking at it, it feels like the scaling is too easy on it. So it probably could go down like half the damage and would still be too strong.
I don't think it's at least like that big of a nerf hammer, as like half the damage on the gem would just make it so. I think that the fevered minds might actually be a good like starting point. Limit them to 1, maybe to 2 would also be like an option if you're like, okay, you don't want to limit the investment on those too much, but like just so that not your only investment is just like, okay, I'm gonna put fevered mind jewels and that's it. Otherwise, like if you can only use 1 or 2, you would have to use other things such as like go crit more often, because I think mostly now in hardcore it is an issue. I would think that in softcore I think there are other ways to scale your damage to ridiculous levels, and not only the ones that obviously will get nerfed. There's like enough options to make crazy low life damage, minors, whatever. I think in hardcore it's especially a problem balance wise, because you get so much defense out of mana, and people were going MOM before that this is just a bit too efficient to gain enough damage to be able to do all content while still being insanely tanky. That might become a bit too strong on certain skills. I mean, the skills that this buffs is like very limited, it seems. It's just
it's also worth mentioning Archmage really only works to this power with Blade Vortex and Brands. That's it.
And Orb of Storms also pretty good.
And sort of into Orb sometimes.
Not nearly as good though.
I've seen like pretty good Pledge of Hands builds as well.
Yeah, there are some tier 2 skills and the work, and there's people using Pledge of Hands and stuff, but when they do that sort of stuff, they're being a lot more clever. There's way more investment in it.
Yep.
They don't have the same just stack fevered mines in every single spot because you can't have it be a 9,500 mana cost like you can with brands.
It seems a bit more like it was intended to be used. Like, I think the brand recall spam is probably not what was the intention behind the thing.
Maybe that's a problem, because Archmage is a great concept, and I think it's an amazing gem, but it feels like it should be a little bit more general and less like tuned towards a few very, very highly specific scenarios, and all other scenarios are like just, well, average or under average. I'm not sure. So I haven't played it myself, just the number on brands are pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the 6 fevered mines only works really if you don't have to pay the mana cost all the time. Like, if you're playing, even if you're playing Pledge of Hands and get like 4 casts out of your 1 button press, you still need to pay the mana cost every time you see a new pack or whatever. And
I think out of this discussion, it becomes very apparent that that's the main problem, that it's just so different, and for some skills it's night and day, and for other skills it's just a nice addition.
Like, you could make brand recall the same mana cost as the brands you're recalling.
or even half, and you would still
even half would still make, or even like probably like 25% would probably still be a problem.
Just an interesting tidbit there is because I'm wearing the ivory tower, and all my chaos damage goes to mana first. So I've got like 0 chaos res. It doesn't matter because most of the time I've got a 10,000 mana pool for just chaos damage. So I don't care. Except my skill costs 9,600, and if I happen to have to place a new brand and then I get breathed on with chaos damage at the same time, I just die because
there was no mana found. I imagine you like running over one of those like little plants that some of the maps have, and you just happen to be standing on it and just like cast a brand.
Yep, that is exactly what happens. 1 brand in a tiny little chaos degen, and I just die because there's I don't have any life left. There's like 70 of that. So if I use all my own mana, I'm dead.
I think that's something where you have to balance the build a bit more carefully if you're playing hardcore, like where you don't want your mana cost to be like 99.9% of your mana pool, but maybe like 50, 60, 70
ish,
but definitely not 99.
No, right now it's like 9,600 out of 10,000. I'm like, I've now got 400 life for chaos damage, and I am nowhere near chaos capped. That's not a good plan.
I still do hold the opinion, though. Like, I think that shouldn't be understated, that it is pretty huge that it's just a flat damage value, because lightning damage by nature in Path of Exile is the most volatile damage type. And even though you have a good, even in a build where you deal good damage, you'll occasionally have like a 2 or 3 hit streak where you feel like you didn't do a lot of damage. And with Archmage, you don't have that. Like, it just deals that minimum and maximum damage at the same time. It makes probably shocking easier. I didn't look into that, but it also makes this new notable that they added on the cluster jewel, the supercharge or something that makes your damage on non-crits lucky. It kind of makes that unnecessary for the build, and I think that would be neat to actually put that in, because you have such a huge roll range and you're mostly going non-crit with it. It's
a nice idea. Yeah.
I mean, Archmage does like so much damage that the base damage of most skills is just like
exactly.
Oh yeah, no, it's irrelevant. Like if you can get Fireball and go Archmage, you're a lightning build.
Same with like the Ice Nova Frostbolt people that I've seen. It's just mostly do lightning damage, and
you're a lightning build.
Yeah, but
Ice Nova and Frostbolt have pretty high base values as far as spells go.
But the concept is great. I mean, I really like the idea of having the ability to have really high damage single target spells. It just feels like the way it's currently used, it's not exactly what's intended. So it's usually if you want to go like super high damage, there's very few options for normal self-cast except for Unleash, Low Life, and so forth, to reach the levels of usual normal endgame builds. Like a miner will deal much more damage than that. And Archmage kind of levels with that. It just feels like it shouldn't work in that way, that only it can be used consistently with 1 or 2 spells. In all other cases, just, why would you bother? Just do something else.
Yeah. They have to add a new line to every skill. It's called Archmage effectiveness.
No.
I honestly think even at 20% mana cost, if brand recall cost 20% of whatever my brand was, I'd have to drop 3 of my fevered minds at least.
And or invest more into regen and whatever.
And I'd have to invest way more into mana regen and drop 3 of the jewels. It would probably halve my damage, and I'd have to spend more points on the tree on regen instead of just worrying about maximum.
I think it's an interesting way to balance, yeah.
Yeah,
So that would help, but it really does feel like Stormbrand and Blade Vortex, Blade Vortex is going under the radar, but like Blade Vortex with a little bit of duration and Unleash is pretty much the same. You tap it once every like 10 seconds, and it just stays on you. So that is just as strong. But outside of those two, Archmage isn't that powerful. Like, it's good, and I've seen some good builds using Fireball, and I've seen some good builds using Arc and whatnot, but they've had to invest properly, and to get up to 10 million damage, which I've seen them do, they've had to give up all of their tank and survivability. They're running glass cannons at 2.8k life. And that's okay if that's the balance. Like, if you decide you want to go complete glass cannon, you should be able to get millions of damage, but anything that breathes on you dies. If you want a well-rounded character, you should go in the middle, right? Like, that makes sense.
Makes sense, yes.
They have to sacrifice all of their survivability to get to that level of damage means that you can also make a well-rounded build that's got some survivability and a decent amount of damage. So it's really only those two skills that just don't balance with Archmage.
Yeah,
properly.
I'm not super sure. So I'm really interested in what kind of damage does GG envision does the usual most players have. So if you run a 100% Delirium map, it feels like I could run it on my cosplay character that was really, really well geared. I mean, that's more or less trade level gearing. It had some little bit better jewels and this and that, but it's at around 50-40x level of investment. And I could run them, but it felt very, very deadly. So things could be super deadly, and with bad mods, I had the risk of simply not finishing the map. So I'm sometimes wondering what exactly the line GG is aiming for. So if you're running a tier, basically the point I'm trying to get at is I'm wondering what's actually the envisioned balance. Should most builds be a little bit more powerful, or is this those builds are getting out of line? Because especially with the Delirium maps, with Delirium in general, it feels like a character to actually survive high tier maps just has to offer so much more defense and so much more damage than previously. So it's a little bit hard.
But
to me, it feels like
that was. Sorry. Yeah.
To me, it feels like the 100% Delirium was not really intended for most builds to run it. That seems kind of like a test for like the high end. I think that's the whole thing, because otherwise it would have made sense to just be Delirium, or just be like you put it on a map and it's now Delirious and that's it. The whole like percentage scaling makes it to me seem like it was intended that there's like Delirium orb maps is accessible to everyone. You can, like, most builds I think can run 20%, 40%, 60% is doable if you have a pretty decent build, and then like once you get to 80 and 100 in like tier 16s, you need like a top end build that's pretty well maxed out.
But it's not just Delirium maps, it's just Delirium in general. I feel like the level of damage scaling and level of defense scaling in most Delirium encounters is just way off the chart of anything else that PoE has ever brought.
Yep.
That's what I like.
So are the rewards, right?
Was that not the design space going in? Like,
I guess
didn't they just outright say, this is basically a league for min-maxing? Like, we want you to have to keep working and keep working and keep working on your character and develop it much further than you've ever had to before.
Yep.
I think it's their way of making the game harder without excluding people.
Yep. And I think it's actually like a decent way. But I think that's also kind of like where the backlash from the community came from. A lot of the time, like, were used to being able to finish that, like going into an incursion and not killing like the guy and opening the door that you want is very rare, right? Like, you go into an incursion with the expectation of, okay, I will kill this dude, upgrade this room, and open this door, and normally it works. And with Delirium, you go into Delirium, they're like, I want to get at least like 5, 3, 1 rewards. And sometimes it just doesn't happen. If your map is more difficult, then it doesn't happen. And
I believe
also
Delirium
can
has
screw up your incursion in that turn as well.
I think Delirium has a problem with the general mindset of the general mindset of a softcore player usually has a problem with Delirium, because with Delirium, if you go in, you're trying to just push it as far as possible. I think for most average builds, it will end at some point with you getting smashed with some slam and getting back to the hideout. So unless you're investing in custom death portal, you can try improving that. You can try working on your build, or you can try trying it over and over again and getting frustrated, which I think some people will do. Or you can just cancel Delirium earlier. And I think that's a thing most people won't do. So I had this idea that maybe a good approach would be to allow people, if they opt out of Delirium. So let's say if you're 3 at rewards and you opt out, you get a 4th reward. So you can kind of say, okay, I'm done with Delirium, so that's too much. At this point, I'm saying I want to opt out. So if you end Delirium on your own choice, not when the timer starts, but yourself, you get a little bit more rewards. I think that would maybe a good incentive to players to think like, okay, I'm not going to get the 4th level of Delirium or the 3rd level of Delirium or whatever. Maybe it's safer to just end it, get my rewards, and proceed going instead of relying on my portal strategy.
Oh, that's a really nice mind trick.
Yeah, it is. I think it could kind of trick people.
Because otherwise, I don't know how you want to tell a softcore player to don't rush it, don't Zerg rush this thing. You're gonna die. You have 5k HP at most, and your glass cannon build is not gonna stop the causes from one-shotting you.
That is clever. I don't know how I feel about Delirium being even more rewarding, but
that's not the problem.
That's something that they basically
problem.
can't put in anymore, because they would have to add an extra reward. What they could have done is when they upgraded the rewards, they could have upgraded a bit less and added that mechanic. That would kind of make sense. I mean, personally, I feel like Delirium could have taken a lot of rewards away from where it is right now and still be. I mean, I personally was fine with the initial state of the rewards, just from the amount that you would get, just from the map having so many more mobs. Personally, I think that I didn't have any issues with that, but I think I initially expected Delirium to work a bit differently, and I found it really weird when I first saw the icons at the bottom that's how this is supposed to work. I thought when I first heard the concept, I thought that it would work they told us that it would be intertwined with the other league mechanics, right? If you encounter an Alva, that's affected, and you encounter a Breach, that's affected. And I thought that would determine what the rewards would be. So basically, you don't get the basic icons, but if you encounter a Breach, you now get a Breach icon. You basically take the content and you get the icon from that. And then
That would have been so cool.
Go further, then you get to find an Alva. You get let's say a Vial fragments or whatever, something
cool
that makes temple items. And then you could find a Harbinger. You get Harbingers. That would make I think that would have been the cooler concept. And that was actually what I thought it would be. And then when I saw what it actually was, I was I like my idea better.
Then I'd be actively trying to I'd be actively trying to involve myself in as many league mechanics as I could while under the effect of Delirium. Yeah,
that would kind of reward you for doing the league mechanic. And then it makes sense that it makes the league mechanic harder, because you already got something for finding it basically while under the influence. And then if you then do the league mechanic and you can fail the Alva or whatever, or don't get all the rewards you wanted from the Blight because you're okay, it was too difficult with the Delirium on, you still get the Delirium reward to make up for it. So I think that would have kind of made sense. That's what I thought it would be, and I was kind of surprised that it's not that.
Up until right now, I actually really loved this league, despite all of Reddit's complaining. I thought it was fantastic, and now I just like your idea better.
GGG. That's your idea for
I
next.
also misunderstood something when I thought that we wouldn't get a button to cancel it, but it would be determined by as long as you keep moving forward into the fog, you continue, and if you start to move backwards, a screen or so distance, I don't know, that's how I understood it, that would cancel it.
I mean, it does, right? If you leave the fog, you go back.
I guess it kind of does, yeah.
As well, right?
Yeah, but
I thought that
it
would be. I also understood that would be the only way. It's kind of like, oh no, I've entered this thing. It's driving me mad, but I can just press this button and I'm fine. It feels a bit weird.
Yeah, but
it makes
had
sense
to
from
be
a game
there.
perspective, of course. But
It had to be there because I could finish a map and then wait at the boss for 45 seconds for the thing to finish, or do I run halfway back through the empty map to find the edge of the fog? Like it had to have a button.
It makes perfect sense. Like it was from the issue they learned that from Blight, right? Where people are like, I don't want to wait 10 seconds to place my towers when I need 5 to do that or 2. Or like, don't you need towers?
It does remind me of Synthesis a little bit, and it makes me miss Synthesis because the Delirium is not as complicated an endgame system as Synthesis was. But
yeah, it's a lot more straightforward.
We were just touching 2 really good segues where we talked first about the super OP Archmage build, and then we talked a little bit about Reddit drama, and there was a big Reddit drama around the infamous, notable, purposeful Harbinger that was introduced with the cluster jewels that we certainly want to touch on. And for the people
really bad
in
now,
chat,
it's been gutted. I'll buy all your jewels.
For those of you who don't know what that is, it's like a notable that increases the effect of auras on you by 10% for each herald that is affecting you. There's 5 heralds in the game that you can put on your character. That means 50%, but it also stacks between the notables, so you can get a bunch of that and increase a lot of effect of auras, which by itself is numerically already very strong. But there was also an unintended interaction by which things that are not traditionally considered auras, but are coded as auras in the game from the developer point of view, were affected and scaled by that as well. Among others, the Tailwind mod on Boots. And there was a big outcry because it was actually confirmed by the developers that they wouldn't nerf it mid-league when they did not realize that that unintended interaction was taking place. And then when they realized, they said that they did have to nerf it. And a lot of people had invested a lot of currency in the build and were very angry and wrote a lot of words on Reddit. What do you guys think about that all? What's the first thing that you think about when you think of that drama?
I'd like to answer it with a question. And my question would be, without giving away my stance about the nerf, what do you guys think would happen if they wouldn't have nerfed it? So what's the problem behind not nerfing such a thing? I mean,
yeah, that's what I thought as well. Like, I was like, if they didn't nerf it, then yeah, there would be a build in the game that basically makes, like, completely ignores anything you can do, and like, you basically don't have to play to do content with this, right? Like, you could, like, if you min-max that build, you could walk through Sirus storms and face tank anything in Uber and whatnot. And we have had that before with like the Xerfes flask builds. I don't know if you remember those, like fully immune Xerfe flask Brazilian region builds could also kinda, but they never got to like the damage. I think this might have been like the most OP stuff we ever had in PoE. So we would have had a build that facilitates everything and clears at absurd speeds and does all bosses, right? Maybe the economy gets screwed.
Yeah, I think the damage it primarily does is kind of psychological level of damage towards other builds. So it's basically kind of adds insult to injury because it creates a build that's so good that nothing else can compare remotely to it. There's builds that are super good at certain things. So you can have like darkness farming builds with 1 CI and 1 HP that are great at picking up fossils and whatever. You have like invulnerable builds from Poet Spend Times that can do crazy stuff, but nothing was able to do everything at once. So it kind of reached the holy grail of standard mirror level things where you are clearing this 40 million DPS and running crazy through maps, having insane survival, having endless utility. And I think the damage it was doing isn't economy damage. It's like, doesn't matter. The league's going to end. There's going to be a next league. And then everything starts fresh. So this idea of economy damage is like neglectable. The problem it was doing is everyone else. Yeah.
The economy still affects you while you play the league, right?
Sure, but
if you don't play SSF,
it makes everyone else play feels silly. Why should streamers play anything else if any build won't compare to that build? Why should you play another build if you can afford that one? It won't even come close. It's kind of my cosplays problem. Everything else I would try to build up, it's really hard to come close, and everything else feels just neglectable. And I think that's
So
the
you're
reason
basically saying Dash needs to be nerfed.
Yes, or something else needs to
No.
get improved, or some other
All the other movement
items.
skills
Yes.
need to feel like Dash.
Yeah, but if you would, the same thing goes here. So if you would like bring all other builds to that level, the game would become boring and too easy to fast. So that kind of reached that holy grail of power level that should be kind of forbidden for players to reach at that level of investment. For all kind of concepts, it was just too good. So as far the communication was bad, but designing kind of from a programmer perspective or from a manager perspective, designing an expansion within 3 months with high complexity and more, to quote you, Yoji, with more skill points than Wilson has, it's kind of hard to QA that in a few weeks. So I think they've done the best choice to actually nerf it down, and nerf it down still to a level that you can use it. You can still use a Harbinger with other builds. It's still super strong. You just don't get this cheater level of power at that point. So I'm not sure. The communication wasn't great, but I think overall they've done the better choice out of two bad decisions.
So, 2 things. Well, 3. 1, I don't think it was the right choice, but I still respect the choice being made. Like, it's fine. I don't actually have a problem with it. I'm just saying if it was me, I wouldn't have made that choice. I would have left it in its brokenly overpowered state and made it very clear that that was going away at the end of the league, that you would not keep it, right? Because it obviously couldn't stay. But I like the idea of just not nerfing things mid-league. I know you can call it a bug fix, but some of the stuff is actually auras that doesn't work anymore. Like the mana as energy shield thing on a Guardian clearly states it's an aura. It gives it to allies. They took that away too. So it's not just a bug fix. It is a mechanical
Yeah,
change.
I agree. That maybe the Guardian thing, they could have left that. So that would at least leave all builds intact. It would just nerfs them down from Black Cane giving you the damage of Archmage to Black Cane being a normal item. So I got to agree here. That's kind of the Guardian thing is the only thing where I'm feeling like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think.
But the thing with that is, I think people got way too upset about it for a mistake that I don't think would have happened if they were all in the office.
Yeah.
I think it's that simple. I don't think the problem is the mid-league nerf. I think the problem is we have Beck say the normal line that she's said 100 million times before of we don't nerf things mid-league, because they haven't for about 4 years, and that's a policy. And she felt safe saying that, and no one's in the office to talk to, and they're all in lockdown and all in different areas. And then once it's looked into further, they go, oh, this is actually the most broken thing we've had in 4 years. We do have to do something. And then everyone's basically got her on the hook like, but you said,
fair,
which isn't...
To be completely fair, wasn't the Volatile Dead enchant also nerfed mid-league?
Yeah, I think there was like 1 or 2 or 3 cases. I also remember Shield Charge being nerfed. So that's like, they do it occasionally.
It's very rare.
At least they never nerfed the build like to the point where it's like you have to majorly change your character. Like the Volatile Dead thing is okay, you lost like 1 extra ball, right? Per cast. Which was huge, but it was just like you have to change your build.
Here's the thing though. You don't have to change the Herald build. It's OP as fuck. I mean, no, it's garbage. You should sell me your jewels.
I'm not saying you don't have to change, like you don't have to spec into another build. That's not what I'm saying. But you like using Solstice, for example, doesn't make sense anymore now. You have to buy a new amulet, and that thing costs you like 35x. That's like the difference. Before with the Volatile Enchantment, it was like, yeah, I'm still using that helmet. It has the enchant that's now -1 ball, but it's still good, and you don't have to like buy new gear. Basically, you don't have to like reassemble your gear. That's what I meant. That's actually never happened before. I think that you actually had to change like half your gear because of a mid-league change, and I think that's kind of like the thing that people don't expect from Path of Exile, because like Chris Wilson likes to say, like the items of the players are like the holy grail. They respect them and they don't want to change them. And that's something that they actually indirectly kind of did this time around, which they never did before. I think that's kind of like where the outrage came from. And plus, of course, that the miscommunication happened. But I think that's
I get it. I think that that 90% of the outrage comes from the miscommunication. I don't think anyone, before they said we're not changing it, was looking at this thinking, yeah, this is intended.
Yep.
Like, no one playing it before they said we weren't going to nerf it was sitting there 100% confident that they were like, yeah, this is the way the game is supposed to be. I've got 720 million damage and 600% movement speed, and I'm literally immortal to everything.
Tailwind has always been an aura, right? Yeah, right.
I don't think
that's like the thing where you had to draw, like, people were discovering things that no one expected to be an aura to count as an aura, and that's kind of like where you need to be tipped off, like, okay, this can't be intended if no one thinks this should be that way. And we just
I kind of doubt people care about miscommunication, to be honest. So maybe like 10% of people were outraged because of that. But I think in most cases, like 90% of people, they were simply annoyed by investing into voices, jewels, sources, and pretty much everyone was using some of those, and many people were saving up for those. So a lot of people were just annoyed by losing a lot of exalted ops. And I think that's basically covers up the whole story. And it's a little bit sad, but I think overall, I'm not sure. It's a harsh choice for GGG. So maybe they should have left it like as it was. Maybe it wasn't a big deal, and it's hard to say. So I mean, from GGG's perspective, they probably had to make a tough economical choice, which will bring us a better player retention, and which will bring us a better long-term player satisfaction. Because I had to have to think about it like a Broadway. I think it's kind of like loot boxes. Maybe it's not the most ethical choice, but it's probably the better one for the company. I'm not sure, but I probably would interpret it that way.
I do think both decisions were shit.
Yeah,
like they were caught. They were definitely in this like, well, this is now a rock and a hard place situation. If we do nothing about it, it's shit. If we do something about it, it's shit. And they had to make a decision. But
the mistake was made basically in designing the notable. Everything else was just like dealing with the problem.
Well, look on the bright side. Otherwise, we're looking at 3 months of the same meme and the same complaint on Reddit. Well, you're playing that build. No one wants to see you play a Herald build. Why are you using purpose?
Yeah, and if you're not playing a Herald build, why are you not playing a Herald build? That's better.
Yeah. So
which you still get now, by the way.
At least from that perspective. And then you would go to PoB Ninja, Ninja builds, and you would see like most people are playing voices, most use unique, and so I see at least some upside in that.
I mean, it's still the strongest build right now, right? So it didn't.
Yeah, it is. It
didn't really like change the order of builds. Like you don't have to be like, okay, now Archmage is the strongest or whatever, and now I have to play this if I want to play this. You don't have to actually switch builds. You just have to change some gear around.
And it is like it's still the strongest. It's just now not the strongest by the same margin that it was before.
Yep.
You
now if you invest heavily into it,
you actually have to play the game, sometimes.
Yes.
And now if you invest into a really good Archmage build, you could get to a similar-ish enough level of damage and clear. Probably not get the same amount of tankiness, but you could get the damage and clear out of that. Like there are now and a few others that I can think of. Like there's a few mining builds and whatnot that could pump out similar damage numbers now, which is nice. Like at least there's you can catch up to that. It's not just in a league all of its own, like way.
But it's still I think the highest that you can get.
It is still winning.
Yeah, and it's still by a decent margin, I would as well say. Still pretty crazy. It needs more investment now as well, which is nice. Yeah, I'm wondering, like, so you don't think like the miscommunication, like if Bex, instead of posting like we don't nerf mid league, she would have posted hold your exalted orbs. We have to discuss this. There might be some changes or nerfs incoming.
That would have been the right thing to do. I can't give you a statement on that right now.
But do you think that would have changed like the aftermath? Would people still be as pissed? Would still as many people be as annoyed, or would like everything be like just completely fine? What do you think?
Like, scale it down. it would scale it down by a little bit. And besides, I
Yeah.
think the drama is not that horrible in the end. I think after a few days, everyone will forget it anyway. But it would be less people would have invested in that. There would be less arguments to be made that, oh, but you've said it before, and they did say it before. So it would be less of a drama.
I think it accounts for like 90% of the drama. That's
Yeah, definitely like I don't know whether 90%, but a big part of the demographic of the frustrated people right now wouldn't have been frustrated if that would have not been confirmed that it's not going to get nerfed and then in the air for 2 days until they actually nerfed it.
Yeah, and I get those people. If I'd be playing that build, I'd be pissed as well. So it totally makes sense. But yeah.
But in the end, if you want to play Path of Exile, do you want to play something really so much over the top that the game is not really a challenge anymore? I mean,
some people just want like min-max as hard as possible and have fun, like see how much they can break the game. And that
I
was
think
definitely
people
one of
want to
them.
get there, but it's about the path. You get there too easily, too fast. So that build was just saying that you reach that path way too easy. If you want to have that, you want to have those mirror level of everything, you have to invest more. And people reach that end of the path way too easily. It also doesn't help player retention that people reach that build and then well, what next? Well, next nothing. I have the perfect build. It can clear anything. It can run T19 100% Delirium maps. I'm gonna go play, I don't know, something else.
Do you think it was intended to be like one of the stars of the patch, like, and they just overshot? Because they said after they nerfed the unintended interactions, they said that it's numerically still very strong, and it is. And do you think they actually went for that? Do you think that's like a design that they're nowadays going for? That just like minions in Blight League, for example, that there's always like some archetype where they intentionally add a little bit too much power just to get people in.
I think they overlooked that you can just put like so many of them in a build and that it would fix all stats you need, especially like resist and everything.
I think whoever designed that one looked at it in terms of how would a normal build handle this if you weren't abusing it, right? If you had
or maybe like
one large cluster with 2 of these and your normal build that has 2 heralds and maybe 2 auras with some aura reduction, is this powerful enough? Yes. And then they didn't take it to the extreme. Oh, what if I get 3 voices here and 3 voices here, and then I stack all of them, and then I put all 5 heralds on, and then I take all the mana reservation on the tree, and then I get every aura. What happens then?
I also think they overlooked it.
That didn't get looked at.
Yeah, they overlooked it. I mean, if you have so many nose designs, something just slips through the curtains, and that actually there's potentially still like 1 or 2 things left that we still haven't discovered that will be used later because they're just so strong.
There's still some like pretty cheesy stuff you can do, like war cries, for example. I feel like a pretty damn good. A friend of mine is playing like a war cry Zerker with like the heal having like a less than 1 second cooldown. I think on Enduring Cry, like perma Immortal Call, perma Berserker heal.
Yeah,
that's also pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to shout out Coffee Powered, who's been playing around with War Cry since about the midways through the first week, like ages before everyone else. Was jumping in and out of people's hideouts, quadrupling their damage as a support build with War Cries, just shouting in the hideout and watching my tooltip go from 107 to 400,000. You're like, wait, what? And she's been messing with this for ages.
A friend of mine is playing an aura bot in hardcore, and he stacked a lot of different aura notables, and that's also an example where I think his discipline gives him around 8 or 9 KES, and he doesn't use any herald jewels, so he basically makes people completely immortal to anything. So there's like some things that are very, very, very strong right now.
Yep. I mean, I think like that's probably like the worst case that GGG thought about. Like, okay, a support might put on like 2 or 3 of those, and purposeful harbingers, like add like a 1 or 2 heralds, and then like kind of be fine, and it balances out the reservation. But supports have always been insanely strong, and the big downside of you can't play alone was always like what balanced them, right?
Balanced around needing a friend.
Yep. But then if you have like a dedicated group or whatever you play with supports, then as like I think there's a lot of examples. Like I think Empyrean's group is one of them, but there are like many more groups who like farm crazy amounts of currency every league.
Yeah, group farming has always been a little bit stronger than solo. Just for the fact of
mildly
having
stronger.
Yeah, mildly. But yeah, because you have to coordinate and actually have friends. But yeah.
No.
Other cluster jewels worth mentioning?
Just in
Anything
general, how awesome they are. Can we just like say how awesome they are?
I mean,
They're
all
like
of them.
fun, easy to craft on like a basic usable level. There's still room for min-maxing, like a lot of room. It's like one of the few systems where you can actually like start using them fairly early and they feel good and are worth using.
Do you know how in some
you can
builds,
gradually upgrade them?
When you level, you spec into points that are not in your final build, but that you spec out of just because they're more point efficient at that point in leveling, and later on you change it. That's so much better now with cluster jewels, because you can just unsocket it and all the points are gone. You don't pay any regrets, and it's just it's
might
phenomenal.
cost you like one regret for this big, like you got like 19 points spent. You're like 1 or 2 regrets later. And
really
you're like, there's the whole lot of them
design.
gone.
Yeah, I really like their base design, so I really feel like it's a great design that it's really hard to get a cluster jewel that's exactly the same as another one. So you basically have to do a little bit of thinking with them. So you can't just one-to-one copy them from different builds, and you get to be inventive. You can be you can think like, okay, so that branch is just not very effective, so I'm gonna invest into a cluster jewel. And I also like how, so it has a disadvantage, but I like how interesting skill trees are becoming. You have your timeless jewels, you have your cluster jewels, you have your pretty uninteresting threshold jewels, but in general, there's like a lot of things to play around with, and I'm really enjoying playing with them. Also on Cellfound, it's like you also try to find the right size of the cluster jewels, right types. I think it's one of the best done mechanics, and yeah, well, as it turns out, one or maybe a few mods are a teeny too much power behind it, but otherwise, it's great. It's like head off, like how well it was designed in that short time.
Yep.
I haven't seen anyone do it yet, but I'm pretty much positive that you can just build anything anywhere now. Like, I don't think you need to be on a certain side of the tree to do chaos damage over time builds. You can just start as a marauder and move between marauder and duelist, and as long as you go out into places, you can get all of the damage that you need right there.
I'm Toxic Rain champion right now. I would have never played that build. Yeah, it's so
right?
good.
Like, that doesn't exist. Toxic
permanently
Rain champion. Like, what?
Oh, so good. And I only use one large, one medium, and one small so far, because I don't have a chaos damage increased large jewel yet with 2 sockets.
But I love that, because that's something we've lost in slowly over time in the last few years.
Via ascendancies mostly.
We've lost. Yeah, well, I liked ascendancies.
I don't say I don't like them, but they did pigeonhole.
They kind of like made certain classes better for certain skills. Like if you're damage over time, you're most likely going somewhere in the like tricksterish area,
occultist pathfinder.
And there's some like damage over time stuff you can do with like it's the new pathfinder, but the early pathfinder didn't have that. And bleed has been so bad.
Yeah, but the early pathfinder was generally like a Swiss Army knife that you would just put on any build because of blast sustain.
Then this cluster system seems to have given us back a lot of that flexibility. Then you can just make anything as anything now.
Yeah, and it feels like it's a great backbone for future expansions. So they might be adding more complexity to them, like more interesting systems, new keystones. I think that's great. So it's also kind of technically the advanced system, because PoE has a lot, so they can keep adding new features to them and new keystones. I like it a lot.
And I also have to highlight, I did that on the last 2 podcasts, so I have to bring it up every time, but I love how they like designed them as items where everything is in the text and the notables were released beforehand, and Path of Building had them implemented within the first week. Just because of that. Because they're so much more accessible than Legion Jewels. Legion Jewels were super obscure with the seat number and the general name and everything, and you're just there's no way that it that you can
There's a
access
lot
the
of like
information.
lessons they learned from all
Yeah.
like the years and leagues that kind of like are put into the system. Like the upgrading, crafting, the waiting. I think is spot on for most things. Like the stuff that should be rare is rare, but not too. Like, it's not like insanely rare. The power level in some things obviously is a bit off, but I think overall, and also like the animation of putting the thing in is super satisfying. I think it's like these swing. That's
It
you
looks
don't do
like a
that very
trailer.
often, but it's really cool. Yeah, it's in the trailer, but I thought it was like, oh, that's a fancy trailer animation thing they put there. No, it's
Yeah.
actually in the game. Nice.
No, it looks like it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that's really good.
I think my only little nitpick would be I would really like to sell 5 jewels of any rarity to receive a jewel of any rarity on cell phone, because right now you have to scour them all and make them rare, because otherwise you get some strobe fragments and stuff.
Wait, do you have to make the? Can't you just sell them? Scout?
No, you can't sell them magic. You have to sell them rare, and so if you have some magic jewels, you have to regoo them or something. So,
But if they're all
they have
magic,
to be
you get a magic
rare?
one back.
yeah,
I
they
thought
have
you
to
can
be rare.
always do 5 for 1.
No, they have to be rare.
I think they only have to be all the same rarity, right?
That's what I thought.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I thought
as
they
well.
just had to be all the same.
Yeah, all the
And
same.
I thought
yeah.
that
They
would
don't have
mean
to
you
be
could
rare. You
just
can like
scour
transmute
the
the
lot
white
of them.
ones. You don't have to alk everything.
I usually
Can you
keep
just
track of
scour the
blue
lot and
ones.
do them white?
I've
No,
not tried white, but I've tried blue. I think blue works. I'm pretty sure. I'm not like 100% sure. I've done a lot of recipes to get my right jewel. Chat says all same rarity.
All right.
Yeah.
Also white. That's nice.
Well, today I learned.
Yeah, saving some scours.
No, well, they're saving elks, which we've already got 600 of, so that I guess doesn't really help anyone. But it's good to know.
The main problem are the blue ones, which you would have to like scour back to
No,
alk.
you
them,
can rego. You can rego them. Just rego everything.
I don't want to regal.
Oh, you have a lot of regals.
I have a lot of
Yeah.
regals this league.
I have 20. I've been like all regal crafting axes for like the whole league. I don't have many regals.
I'm telling you, all of your currency, all of your scarabs, all of your incubators, everything is sitting in your simulacrum splinters that you haven't run
That
out.
could be. You have like eight or so sitting around. So.
Yeah, and you don't actually need to
You've got
finish them.
120 regals sitting there. That's what you've got. By the time you finish them, you'll have more than 120 regals.
Then I still need scours and alterations, but they might drop.
you'll
get them while you're
now,
there.
right?
You won't get a lot of alterations. But you can sell the talismans. So you get a ton of talismans. You can sell them.
I filtered those out because you can't anoint them. They're like super useless. I think they can remove them just from the game and like, except for like the Jorgen bench in Betrayal, and everyone would be fine.
Mhm.
Or make them drop with a random anoint. I mean, that would be a thing as well.
Yeah, I like the idea
could-
of making them drop with a random anoint and maybe even random quality.
Oh, I don't want that. I just want them out. I don't want to pick them up and look at them.
At this point, they can just start dropping a lot more Great Wolf talismans. I think that would be maybe a good solution to just stop dropping those 1 more talismans and stop dropping 2 more talismans, because that might be actually interesting. But otherwise, their main purpose is vendoring, and I tried highlighting good talismans, so I did a little bit of few rules to highlight talismans with good combinations, and in the end, those are usually not good enough to be used.
Yeah.
Because no annoyance.
Yeah. Like,
like the
no
most-
anoint means it's at max it's a temporary amulet. For a couple of levels.
They could just make it so you could anoint them, and then they'd be able to play again. Like, that's it.
You mean like talisman being just
I don't know. Just make it so you can anoint them.
you anoint talismans but not corrupted items in general?
Why not?
Well, maybe
Well,
they can.
because you could corrupt amulets for +1 curse, for example, then
and then anoint it,
Yeah.
and not the other way around.
the
Like
opportunity
right now, if
cost
you
is
want a
just-
corrupted amulet with like +1 all max res or whatever, then you have to pay the anoint
Anoint
first.
them all first. Yeah.
So you can't put your soul steal on afterwards after you get +1 max res.
Because that's what I'm so annoyed with. Also annoyed
And then you
with.
anoint
In SSF, normally I would, before I vendor any amulet, like any unique amulet that I find, I'd probably like always throw a Val Orb on it just in case it hits something. And now I don't do it anymore because even if you hit a good corrupt, you're not gonna use it. Like never.
I mean, there might be some cases where you kind of want to use it, but it's not.
Yeah, there was the one case where I did the summoner build last league and it had a +1 curse amulet, but
Yeah.
I
Maybe-
would have really loved an anoint though.
maybe they can add a Val Orb cost for corrupted items, so you can anoint them, similar how you can still color them. So you can have to pay, I don't know, some Val Orbs, maybe some reasonable amount to anoint them.
Or it would
Or
have
like
to
an
be. It would have to be
unreasonable amount.
unreasonable.
Like one
Otherwise, I
Val
disagree.
Orb per
Per oil?
Per
Per silver oil cost.
per clear
One
oil
per
that
clear.
would
Yeah, get on
Yeah.
clear
need to
oil.
trade it up.
No, like one,
Yeah.
one tier of oil means one Val Orb. So if you have like golden oil, I think it's like tier 11 or 12. So if you're using 3 golden oils, you have to pay like 33 or
That's
34
not enough.
Val Orbs.
I poop
no.
33 Val Orbs. That costs me nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it would have to
You'd
be
be
actually
looking
per
at-
clear oil equivalent, one Val Orb. That would be like
Yeah, that would be
1,500.
You can't fit
bazillion
that
Val Orbs.
into your inventory. That's
No, you have
pay to win. You
make
have to have a
millions
currency
of
tab.
Val Orbs.
It takes it from your stash. It takes
How-
from your future drops.
How many?
You sell your soul.
That would be very Val Orbish.
You're actually sacrificing your RNG.
That would actually be an interesting thing. I don't think it would be a good mechanic, but it would be a funny mechanic.
You're banned
But
for
this-
playing the next
Or I
league.
guess I'm not getting any Val Orbs anymore until like 2022, but it's worth it for this amulet.
That would be fantastic. Oh,
That would be a cool April Fool's thing. Like something, an altar of RNG where you can like sacrifice your future drops for upgrades
Drops
on your
now.
items.
give me this thing now. I swear you can have my next Exalted Orb. Imagine if it still dropped too.
Yeah, if you like get
Like, it
an
would still
exalted,
drop on the floor, but as you get near it, it just disappears.
then the moment you pick it up, it just doesn't go into the inventory. You just hear like the Delirium voice like laughing in the background, like very, very quietly. Like, and then once you imagine if you're like a mirror drops and that happens, you're like, well,
Crows and enters through a portal, grabs the orb, and goes away.
Grabs it out of your inventory after you picked it up.
Still Saint Exile.
or just like makes the poof animation from the double corruption, like, and it's gone. That was pretty good.
I'm pretty sure that is why Sirus went mad.
Yep. That's
Because-
One too many RNG scam.
I'm just
Talking about
choking. I'll be back in a
Sirus,
second. I need to get some water.
what do you think about like the Sirus fight? Like a lot of people complain like it's like super unfair now and whatnot.
From a softcore perspective, it's fine. From a hardcore perspective, I'd hate it. So I've fought Sirus around 12 or 13 times this league, and I've failed it once. I was really insistent on trying it with a cosplay character and wasn't ready yet for it.
Mhm.
So
Like
I think-
Sirus 8 or like all the levels?
Sirus 8. So it feels pretty good. It feels I feel like it's much more dynamic. It's very punishing, so you have to keep moving all the time with it. But I think it's good. I think it's really good, but it's still a little bit buggy. So I had like moments I have it clipped that I enter the portal and I get instantly teleported from the start of where you are not even in Auras yet to the center of the maze and get meteor down. So if something like that happens, or I once got trapped in the maze and got meteor down by the Apartian from Sirus. So if something like that happens, it's just frustrating. And if I would play on hardcore, it may make me break my table. So, but in softcore, I think the fight is much better and it's a fun fight. I disagree to people saying it's like a horrible fight. At least from my perspective, it's really well done. It's really dynamic. It's really punishing, and it's really technical. So it's not won by you. Well, it can be won by you having 9 million DPS, but it can also be won by simply learning the fight really well. And that's what I like about it.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I read a lot of like Reddit stuff where people like this fight is super unfair when like people claiming he like teleports off and like die beams you instantly, whatever. I don't think even they can do anything instantly after he teleports. Like waits a bit. I think there's like a lot of people like not really haven't learned the fight yet that complain. Like It seems like to me there was some bugs that got fixed where he was like doing the apparition animations together with the teleportation stuff, which was pretty unfair. And I also got I did Awaken as 7 earlier today, where I got stuck in the maze and had to log, so I don't like lose experience. But so far, I only died once to Sirus on like the whole leveling thing. Like that Awaken, like what's the first one you do is like 5, I think, and then like 6, 7, and now I just spawned 8 right before the podcast, so now I could do Awaken at 8 like tomorrow or the night, depending on how long we do. So I've not done Awaken at 8 with the buffs yet, but so far the fight seems like really nice now. It's a lot more engaging. Last league, after they nerfed like this, how the storms work and like nerfed some of the mechanics, and especially like the spinning beams were like super weak. It felt like such a pushover. Like on my EQ jug, I just like waltz in there, just like run around him, EQ the ground, and he died. He just didn't even do anything. Nothing really could hit you. And now it's actually you have to like pay attention to the apparition. And to me, there's like one attack that's like a bit weird. Like one of the meteor storms deal like a crap load of damage that kind of overlap, and it's like not very telegraphed. That's like the one time I actually died was like he just like spammed all the meteors above me while I was like trying to track Sirus, and that's when I died. But other than that, the fight is I think is pretty good.
That's why I keep relogging to my miner usually to do Sirus, because if you're running Cosplays, Nova plus Vortex, you simply don't see his meteors. There's like no chance to see that he's like there's like a lot of meteors, there's nothing there. I've looked at Shadow Plane, there's like tiny red dots there under the vortexes, so there's no chance to detect them.
And I mean Lacerate's like a pretty high visibility build. I don't really have anything really going on. Just like the Lacerates flying out, and I've still found it hard to see at times, like when the meteors, especially like for the damage they do. I mean, they just like chunk me, but they like one shot me through a pretty high mitigation character if they overlap from like 7k life, just like straight up, and they're kind of hard to see. That's like my only gripe with the fight. I think everything else is
maybe it needs a voice cue. Maybe that would be a good solution, because
that would also help. He sometimes says something when he does the stuff, but he can also do it without any cue.
So my only issue with that fight is only pretty much a softcore issue. I mean, there were bugs at the beginning of the league. It was crazy. That was
where he like teleported you into his meteor and stuff.
He'd like summon a meteor enemies and slam it. That's irrelevant. That got fixed. Upsetting for anyone in hardcore who died to that, but whatever. Now the only issue I have is sometimes if you run in during the last phase, while he's still 2 screens away in a random direction, not where you left him, he will die laser you to the face.
Yes.
Before you're in range to even know where he is.
You mean when you come back in?
Yes.
Yeah, like you come back in after a death. And that's, I think, my only problem with it.
I've learned that you have to zigzag.
Yeah, and you'll get away with that most of the time, but you're zigzagging randomly. And so you can just be zigzagging in what happens to be a direct line with wherever he's teleported since you died, because he's not in the same place he was exactly when you left.
Yeah.
So you're literally just randoming into the fight and hoping he doesn't do a die laser from 2 screens away in the exact trajectory you're walking, because there's literally no way to counterplay it. And that's my only problem with it still, is that part needs to not happen, because that's... If I had to log out in hardcore on the 3rd phase of the fight, I just wouldn't go back in. Even if it was my first portal and I made a stupid mistake and I'm on a very tanky character and I'm like, oh, I have to log here, I just don't go back into the fight. Because there's like a 1 in 4 chance that I just walk in and die from 2
Because he says die and you die.
I haven't done the fight this league.
Very, very silently.
Yeah.
I haven't done the fight this league.
That's the only issue I've got with it.
And I 100% agree with what you said. That's the worst part about the fight, is re-entering the fight after a death. I mean, I don't know how it is now.
Before the last phase, it's fine, right? Because he always does the storm when you come back in the first phases. So maybe that, but I don't think he can do the storm in the last phase anymore, because he kind of fuses with the apparition, right?
Yeah. So
maybe they would have to do something that he always does. Like whenever you come back in after the thing in the last phase, they would have to do. He does like the spinny laser thing or whatever. That would kind of make.
Or like even something as simple as, if he's not engaged in combat anymore for the reasons of, you died, you logged out or whatever, you could show me that big circle that big circle could reappear around him, and he could not get engaged until I walk back into him. It's still like a whole screen away. The circle could disappear the moment I walk through it, but at least I'd have an idea of where he was before I got there. And that would be enough. Like, that's really the only issue left with the fight for me, as far as now that all the bugs from early in League are fixed. That's really the only issue for me, is that
I didn't have that yet,
because re-entering.
I didn't have that happen yet, but definitely sounds like it would need to be fixed.
Yeah, well, there are 0 counterplays for it. If you can't take a dye laser directly to the face with no flasks and no warning,
I mean, you can just like run when you run in flask up before that's not the issue, but everything else is.
But yeah, if you can't find a way to face tank an entire dye laser, it is not safe to walk back in the third phase at all under any circumstance. So if you're in hardcore and you log out on phase 3, you're rolling the dice if you walk back in. Unless you can take a whole dye laser to the face, you are just rolling the dice on RNG to see him again on your screen.
Which a lot of the Awakener killing characters in hardcore that I've seen actually can.
Yeah, they can take that.
The dye laser
and they do that because they have to.
The dye laser itself is a huge RNG roll because it's like a lot of many small hits, and there's a lot of lightning damage, so the rolls on them are different, and you might get stun, shock, frozen on it, and depending on how your build is built.
Yeah, that's why like most of those builds are like ailment immune, max spell block, who can actually take
and
that.
he also keeps tracking you a little bit, so depending from the angle, it could like deal basically no damage at all, or just completely obliterate you. So
that's true.
I've had exactly the same scenario as you described it, that I went into the arena and he just off-screened me, and I completely was unprepared. I could probably tank it if I would like correctly spam my flask, but I was completely unprepared. I just got completely obliterated. But interesting enough, Sirus punishes you most if you die. So you go back, you get an extra storm, you get off-screened, you get portaled into the maze. He's really kind of a mean character.
Yeah, I think that's kind of fine though. It discourages like corpse face planting him face to face, which like bosses like Uber Elder and stuff do as well, or like Shaper as well.
But I'd rather prefer he'll spawn an additional storm or something instead of
nuking you. Yeah, I think the last phase punishment is not intended. I think the extra storms are definitely intended to like punish you and also like kind of like reset the board basically before you go back in, because he also flies back up again, right?
You know what could be an interesting way to fix that issue? What if you die on the final phase,
he goes back?
He does fly back up in the air and comes back with his full amount of health that he would normally have entering phase 3, and you start phase 3 again.
Yeah, that would be okay. I think that would actually be fair.
Then the rule would be you have to get through phase 3 without dying.
Flawlessly once per fight.
Once, yeah.
If you want to complete. I think that would actually be it would make the fight harder. But I think that would be very fair.
But fair. You would not die to off-screen.
It would be a you fucked up, so you have to redo the thing. It would be very Dark Souls.
I would like that. I think that's a good solution.
Yeah. If that means that you don't get like off-screened unfairly when you enter, that makes sense.
Maybe we can have that as an extra difficulty, or maybe there could be an extra reward if you do that completely deathlessly.
Maybe only at Awakener 8. That would be a thing. That the other guy just like has a mechanic that makes it so the dye laser doesn't greet you when you enter the arena. And then Awakener 8 actually has the additional thing that you have to do the last phase flawlessly.
But you know, Sirus is supposed to be kind of a player character, so I get him off-screening. Dangerous is very safe and a very good way to kill things in PoE. So
yeah,
I kind of understand where he's coming from.
Yeah, I mean he's like it does make sense, right?
Just divine iring things away.
I mean, I don't go into melee range with divine ire. I just like shoot from it makes sense.
Yeah.
So Sirus in a good place. Have you guys tried the favorite maps system?
Yep.
What do you think about it? Is it a good design? Does it work properly? Do you think things could be improved?
I think it's great as is from what I've seen so far. It makes SSF Atlas Awakening completion super easy. like once you got all maps, like you got all maps with like normal completion, getting the bonus is easier because once you have one favorite map, you can like force that map to drop more often, and then you're gonna get the bonus completion. Solve the issue where it's hard to farm divination cards. I think it's a good system so far. What I've seen, I've only have like 2 favorite maps on each of the things, but it works.
So that's a
it works
factor
really
of
well.
20 weighting or something like that, right? That's 10 weighting per.
It just drops mostly that map from that region. It feels.
I have some completions left on the third dot because I'm also not sure if I want to make them, because I'm not sure if it's actually a good idea, since it also makes your maps a little bit more harder, and it kind of scales since each mod also a little bit empowers another one. So if you have more damage on your maps and also more elemental damage, it's kind of more multiplier stacking. But otherwise, I feel like the map favorite system is actually very well done. And yes, you can't like set it to drop only one single map, but I think that's the point. And I feel like I'm getting a very reasonable amount of favorited maps, and I can run favorited maps all the time. So if I'm farming Sirus, I'm basically only running maps I want. So I think it's well designed. It doesn't allow you to run like one single map at all. Well, just one single map. At the same time, you still get enough. I think it's very reasonable, and for a quickly designed system, I think it's working great.
Yep.
Design system. On top of that, like the quality of life is so nice now with the masters. I still have to get used to having the masters on the map device, where you can add the master missions, because they patched it in late. I was really looking forward to it when they teased it before the leak, and I actually overread that it's going to be patched in a later patch, and now it's there. And I forget it every single time. Every single time I walk to the master, I'm like, what do I run on this? Okay, I look on my map, like press my Atlas button, and I look what the numbers are, and then I walk to the master and put it in, and then the moment I open it and walk to the map device, I'm like, oh shit, I could have just done that on the map device.
Yeah, but now it has a downside. Now I want to enter my scarabs and my fragments directly from the map device as well. So I feel like that would be the next logical step.
Oh, you mean instead of putting them in as physical items?
Oh, it feels like the next logical step now.
I don't even think of that, and now I want it.
Yeah,
that would be cool, like a drop-down menu or something.
Or maybe you have it on the sides as your fragment stash tab. You can just drag them in there, or
I think for me personally, that would be too much automation. I wouldn't like that.
I would like
that would be one step too far.
I like automation. I want automation for stash tab sorting. That's like the thing I want most right now. So if stash tab sorting could be automated, I'm completely willing design to pipeline for them. It's really easy at this point. It's
I think they probably could do it if they wanted to pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And I don't think they want to, and I really hope they never do it.
They're probably laughing about this in the office. Like when Legacy League was a thing, these legacy stones, everyone was complaining about them, the micromanagement, and now we have to do like 5 times the amount of micromanagement for each map that we had to do back then.
All I know is I would like to be able to favorite masters and favorite scarabs in a way that I could just walk up and drop my map in the map device and hit enter, and it would just put in the scarabs until I run out, and select my master until I run out, and it could just always be a juiced map, and I could just not have to do 19 clicks to launch each map, and that would be great.
I think the clicking is kind of an issue in that if there would be something else, but I think the stash tab auto sorting would kind of take away the importance of the items. I'm like, I don't know if that makes any sense.
Get your pitchforks. He's indoctrinated by GGG.
I'm not like I agree. I'm not
whenever I had a game where you just like vacuum stuff up and like can like auto stash it and like never look at it. It always like beasts are a good example. How many people just like run bestiary maps and then forget about the beasts for like a long time, and at some point you're like, oh, I need something. Oh yeah, beasts exists. Then you go into your bestiary. Oh, I have this. Okay. Oh, I have this. Oh right. Oh, I can get like belts. I didn't realize.
I have 0 idea what beasts I have, and I've run most of my red Einhars. I must have run 100 of them. I haven't been to the menagerie.
And the reason I think is because you don't have to look at them and sort them anywhere.
I don't actually check Einars fairly frequently, and
You are SSF, that doesn't count.
Okay.
I do that as well because like
Yeah.
remove a prefix, add a suffix is super good in other ways, the other way around. For example.
I only got one single remove, but I got 5 split bees and several imprints this time.
Yeah, I also got didn't get an imprint. I got like 2 splits, which is I actually like the first league I unlock. You always get like the unlock thing when you first time unlock it. I apparently never had a split beast before this league.
But the imprint was great. I managed to imprint a jewel, so I used it for cluster jewels on the 2-socket jewel with a rare mod to regrow it several times. It feels like such a waste, but at the same time it was so good for self-found.
Beasts are also one of the things that you can only get from Einar. You can't get like beasts as a drop from the current league mechanic or something like that.
They could make that the bestiary orbs.
Yeah, of course they could make. Don't give them ideas.
Now we know how the next one is going to be slightly more rewarding than this one, right?
No, please don't.
Just gonna start throwing beasts at the ground in orbs, except I don't remember any of their names at all, so I'll have to pick up all of them.
Please don't.
Oh god, because then we'd have to filter a lot of them too. We'd need every single name. No, just don't. No.
Exactly.
Yeah, currently bestiary orb is just like one loot filter section. It's like all orbs same tier.
Yeah, and you can't subfilter, so there's like no way you can subfilter it in any way. So, and I'm not excited to add that. Currently, you also can't subfilter cluster jewels, so that's a problem they should probably address first.
You can't do like eye level.
No, you can't do item level. You can do item level and size,
but not amount of passive points.
Not amount of passive points and not type. So you can't just.
You can't be like I only want my 1 jewels with 8 passives for the large ones.
No,
5 plus.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, because they don't. You can't.
You can't look at the
tell
enchant.
that an item is enchanted, not what the enchant is.
No, you can't.
Is
You
that
can't see what the enchantment is.
Yeah,
you can't
for
see
the
what
helmets.
the enchantment is.
For helmets, it works.
For helmet works, but that's kind of a little bit tricky because the database for that is a little bit outdated. So I don't have all the names, or some of the names are simply obscured or not working anymore. So my solution to that is I'm not touching that, because every time I touch it, I get burned and doesn't work correctly. So I hope the cluster juice will be a little bit more stable. But you can actually do it. You can also add the names on filter blades. It works. You can do like helmet enchantments. It's just not automated, at least not yet. I'm a little bit afraid to ever automate it.
The good part there is, even if it's like an outdated database you're given and it's not your fault, and it's something GGG has done, because it's the filters, you're the one that gets blamed.
Yes, exactly. That's why I'm
people will be over like, excuse me, NeverSink, this whole thing's fucked, and you'll be like, I've got nothing to do with it.
It's not the first one that happened. Last league there was it's a pretty frequent problem, at least for me. Last league they introduced mid-leagues a new command to filter Shaper and Elder maps, and suddenly Elder maps were influence items. Like real influence items, so not just a pseudo influence item. And they got hidden because they got caught by the random item influence section, because their structure was suddenly completely different. And people didn't update it for quite a while. And there were people coming, I got like 50 maps hidden. Why do you do that? NeverSink. And just go.
You're like, I didn't do it. This is not my fault.
It's also like the multi-base unique issue all over again. Like, why doesn't it only highlight Headhunter and not like the other unique leather?
I don't know. There was one guy who was a fairly new player in his defense, and he installed the filter, and next day he logged in, and suddenly his abysses stopped spawning. His map, his atlas was gone, and his hideout was gone. So he experienced his first leak end, and he didn't know those leaks were temporary. And he thought my filter deleted his leak. So after that guy taking a new throne of it's my fault will be a little bit hard.
That's like, you literally destroyed all his stuff. Okay.
Yeah, I deleted his leak.
Yeah.
He thought my filter deleted his league.
He filtered the whole league out. It's like the uber omega strict loot filter. It filters just deletes everything.
I have a prototype for a stricter filter. I don't think I want to release it.
The strictest of filters.
Fantastic.
Only shows doctor cards and exalted orbs.
Maybe mirrors.
No.
All right.
They're so rare. Doesn't it's like not efficient to put them in a filter.
It's not worth checking
so-
every time whether it was a mirror.
And alteration orbs also pretty expensive.
Yeah, they're pretty expensive this league. I actually put them into the Chaos Orb tier now because I need them. That's like the only thing that stands between my character and like becoming really OP is like alteration orbs.
They'll get an extra tier probably.
Like silver coins or whatever.
More or less. Silver coins are probably getting this tier down because there's not very useful anymore.
That's true. But then they gain value again because no one picks them up.
Yes, exactly. But at this point, I'm just auto-tiering them, so every time it's just every 4 hours.
The auto-tiering was really good for that issue. I remember when we met in Hamburg, we talked about that issue where you like, if you tier something down, no one picks it up, and then it gains value, and you have to tier it up again, and it's like an infinite loop of like re-tiering. Yeah, that the auto-tiering basically solves all those
exactly.
things.
It's the same happened with alterations. Alterations went to alchemy, then a lot of people got the alchemy filter, or maybe the economy changes, they drop down in tier, and now it keeps like bouncing between the two.
It's fascinating.
It's super interesting though that happens, right?
It is interesting. It's a little bit creepy because I have no interest in manipulating the economy. I mean, self-found, especially in self-found, literally, it really doesn't matter to me in that case, but it's unavoidable. So if a lot of people use that script, it will have an impact.
Yeah. It's like pretty crazy. It's kind of like the math effect. There's also the NeverSink effect, basically.
If you wanted to, you have more control over the market than anybody. Like if you decided to, you would also like lose credibility and people would get
exactly. But it's like corrupting it's like corrupting your mirrorable items. So if it goes wrong, you're done. And I don't see any reasons to do that.
Yeah.
That's true, but theoretically, it would be possible to do really dumb stuff.
It would be a very stupid thing to do in the long term because suddenly no one would trust you anymore. But in theory, you have the most amount of power over the market of anybody in existence.
You still have the website with the easiest way to adjust your item filter. People would come back. I would come back.
Probably.
It's really interesting, that type of stuff. But yeah, actually, something that I forgot to do when I was trying for the first time the auto-adjusted, like auto-updated thing, where this filter like does the economy updates and also updates the filter through the PoE website like by itself. Yeah. And I actually forgot to change the filter from auto-updating when I went to SSF. So I made like this very unstrict SSF filter, and like after a while, it's like suddenly all my items disappeared again. I'm like, wait, what is happening? My RNG just went to shit. But yeah,
have you seen the April Fools on Filterblade?
Yeah, that was really cool. The SSF food filter. That was awesome. You didn't see that? It's like the mini game where you have to SSF your own loot filter with like you have to like collect the colors from the loot screen and stuff.
Oh shit, I missed it.
It was really hilarious.
So I vaguely saw that and didn't realize that it was April 1st at all.
It was April 1st.
And then was just confused by it, and then I was like, whatever that is, it's not for me, and I just went on with my life. And now I feel like I've missed out.
It was kind of inspired by GGG's 1 day of development battle royale. So we sat down for 4 hours and built together a way to drop colors in the loot simulator. So you had to find the colors in the loot simulator, but if you'd use the color would instantly vanish. So you had to go there and find new ones. So it was just very silly. And of course, you can save your filter in self-found. That also prevents us from corrupting the database. So it was kind of the self-found Filterblade idea.
Yep.
Now I know what that filter die tweet was about.
Yeah, that's the filter dies. I actually played around with it a bit. It was pretty funny. Like trying to like actually get a color scheme that would theoretically work in game from that was not that easy. But yeah, it was kind of cool.
Let's scout all my I had another really important talking point. What was it? You guys probably have the list up. There was something we didn't cover yet.
There is a list. Yeah, you had the award thing.
Award thing?
But I don't know anything about it. All I know is that it happened.
Academy Award PoE.
In the category evolving game.
Yeah.
It's an evolving game, so that makes sense.
But apparently, I don't even know
what were the other competitors?
Fortnite Was there Destiny 2? There was like some really huge names in the list of the competitors. It's like basically all like the bigger updated games, and there was like PoE in there, like as a game that most people probably wouldn't know who read that list. So it was pretty surprising that
Yeah, like it's getting bigger, but PoE is still like tiny compared to stuff like Fortnite. Like that's
yeah, I was actually kind of surprised. Like oftentimes award stuff is more like a popularity, what makes sense politically
Yeah.
type of contest, which is why I ignore 99.9% of all award things. Like for video games, it's normally like just like the usual highly rated video games win all the awards, end of story. So I was like very positively surprised that PoE actually won that award. I think it might have something to do with like the PoE 2 announcement this year. That was kind of like a pretty big special point that is like an part 2 or like a sequel to a game that is made within the game. Maybe that was, I don't know like the reasoning they gave, like this small abstract, was like very generic. It's just like, yeah, it's a game, it's like updated a lot, yay, it's really good. It's like very generic text, nothing like too specific.
I mean that's accurate though.
It is accurate. It's a pretty good game.
Apex Legends, Destiny 2, Final Fantasy. I can't do Roman in numbers. 14. Fortnite, No Man's Sky, and PoE.
So I think with the number 14, you already lose the award for the ever-evolving game. But
the online. Didn't they like redo the whole like online thing in that game? That was like what they did, right? They released it and everyone was like, that's not that great. And then they redid, like basically took the whole game and re-released it in a completely different state, which is pretty
literally
impressive.
shut the game down.
Yeah, they literally
People
like took the
hated
game
it
down
so much
and
they
put it back
literally
up.
took all the servers down and went, okay, sorry, we'll fix it. And then came back like 6 months later with like, and they were like, okay, go again. If you owned it before, you still own it now. We're relaunching. Is it better? And it was. It was a good job.
And it's like one of the most successful MMORPGs in like recent times. It's like really, really successful and really good.
Yeah, it was shit the first time.
Yeah, I tried it. I actually have to own it. I will eventually try it because.
Yeah, so they're doing a pretty good job. That's a pretty decent list of people to be competing against, though. Like, that's a proper list.
Yeah, if someone showed me that list before, I would be like, yeah, no way PoE's gonna win that. Just like out of like pure popularity and like how huge like games like Fortnite are.
But I think the ExileCon was actually crucial for PoE in terms of media. It's the first like very big event they hosted because otherwise they usually release a trailer and 200,000 people will take a look at that. That's great. It's great for indie company. That's great for a medium-sized company. But then you get like, I don't know, Blizzard release an Overwatch trailer and gets like 10 million views within 1 month. It just doesn't compare anywhere on the same scale. So. That's probably will help them, and the award will give them a little bit more popularity. So I guess it's great for them in the long run. It won't change anything big, but it's nice.
With these sort of things, do you get anything for winning these awards, or do you just like get an award?
You get like, I think the award is basically the publicity, right? That's kind of like you get free shout out.
You paid an exposure, basically.
Basically, but it's like it's really positive advertisement. I mean, you don't have to put anything in to like win the award. They were like nominated for just doing whatever they were doing anyways, so they kind of like get free exposure along the way, I guess.
My problem is I don't know how popular this BAFTA thing is. I've never heard of it before, so maybe it's just the first time PoE wins an award. But
I think it's like the British Academy Awards. Like, I think that, at least I've heard that before. I think they do like movies and TV shows and whatnot, stuff like that usually. And it's pretty popular. I don't know how well like known the gaming part is, because like looking from like who of you guys did know of this beforehand, that they also did game awards?
Yeah, I vaguely knew what BAFTA was, but I thought it was just films. Didn't know it had anything to do with video games. Thought it was just movies.
I've heard of the Academy Award in general before. Like I loosely knew that, but I didn't know BAFTA, and I did like it's the first time I heard of this. Yeah, but I mean,
Yep, same
But
here.
you-
So probably not too many gaming people have heard of them.
Yeah.
I would assume.
but that's great because that means that PoE maybe gets some
One and one,
exposure
no one knows.
outside of the gaming world. Whereas,
That
like,
could be a thing, yeah.
It's one of the
Awesome.
rare cases where exposure is actually a good thing.
Yeah.
This is actually the only kind of exposure you want
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah,
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
much.
That's true.
There's
Oh,
a
you
lot
mean
of
you don't
bad
want to
kinds
be
of
exposed
exposure
to
right
the? Oh, okay, yeah. I get
Yeah,
it.
I'm trying not to get exposed. Home officing day and night right now.
Yeah. I'm actually one of the people still going to work in my town.
Tell me about the outside. I miss it a little bit.
It's pretty empty actually. I think like in the morning where we do like shift work now, like super early, and in the morning the cats have taken over. I mean like mostly cats when I go to work in the morning.
It's an upgrade.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, I read
Are the
this.
streets like way empty too?
Yes,
Because like I haven't been outside in ages.
I mean in Germany you can still go outside like for like even for like no reason to like take a walk. It's not a problem.
Yeah.
But you can't meet with other people. So you like gatherings of more than 2 people that don't live in the same household are banned. And you can actually like get like police can come up to you like you are 3 people. You live in the same household. No, well you're fined. That's how it
Wait,
works.
what? I could go out with my housemates and get like. Oh wait,
Yes,
because
if you
I'm
live in
hanging
this-
out with them anyway. Right?
Yeah,
we're
if
in
you
the
live
house,
in
same
the same apartment, it's obviously fine because you're like cross contaminated anyways, basically. So I can go out with like our kid. I can go out with my wife. That's not an issue.
Yeah, but I
We-
live in like a shared house with like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
No, not the
people.
whole house. The same apartment has to be.
Well, I mean,
But house and
we have the same
thing,
living
yes.
space.
Yes, you're allowed to go. Your whole group of everyone who lives in your house is
Yep.
allowed out together. But you can only have one person from outside your house with your
Yep.
group.
And essentially, you
people
have to
from
try to
outside your
keep
house.
that the same person. It doesn't really make sense if you like always have a different one person. Theoretically, there's no way they can check it. But yeah, you're supposed to like. That's basically if you don't live with your partner, you can still meet then. Or if you live alone, you're not forced to stay alone forever. You have to you get to have one friend. That's basically how it works.
Yeah, you can have a friend. But yeah, so our rules are the same here right now. They're exactly the same. We're still allowed to go out for groceries. I'm still allowed to go for a walk, but no gatherings, no having house parties, no more than 2 people outside of your family, or outside of your house. Except that I've been sick since about a week before the league started, with a dry cough and a bit of a headache and.
People kind of don't want to meet you.
Generally symptoms that would line up. And so I have not seen or left my house or seen a friend or anyone at all since before league start.
Which you
I haven't
probably
gone
wouldn't
out,
have
I haven't
anyways,
gone
but
to the store. Well, I would normally at least like walk down to the store in the morning and
yeah.
I'll have a 10 or 15 minute conversation with the people at my local store who I know very well. And that would be my social interaction in real life for the day. And then I would just come back and I would just stream for 16 hours. And that is also social interaction. And I used to think that was enough. And I didn't want to meet people. I didn't want to see people. I didn't want to go out. But it turns out that just that little like 10-minute interaction in real life that I would do 5 or 6 times a week. Just at the corner store talking to people. That was just enough social for me to get by, and now I miss other human beings.
Yeah, I think most people have like this
weird
minimum that they need of social interactions, and it can be very low. Maybe for some people it is even almost zero, but if you go below that minimum, you will notice it. Yeah, because it is like social interaction is something we need. Like humans actually need it. Different. Like some people need it all the time. Yeah, and that's
I'm happy to have like a short 5-minute conversation 3 or 4 times a week with someone, and that's enough social interaction for me to feel good.
Yeah, that's very low.
If you just go below that, and I'm really I miss people.
Yeah, I never thought I'd say the same, but I do miss people. I miss simply staying at home and working from home office all the time. Is also really not great for schedule because a weekend and the work days kind of feel very similar to me right now. So it's messing a little bit with my sleeping schedule, and I find myself going out on the balcony with a slightly melancholic mood right now. Usually, I barely visit the balcony. Now I'm standing there sometimes. It's a little bit strange, but at least it makes explaining how leagues work much easier. So you stay indoors for a couple of days at least.
Yep.
Oh well.
Now will be a good time to mention. Last weekend, because of this lock-in thing, we hosted basically an online party. We called it a quarantini. And we basically used Zoom and got as many people as possible to jump into chats. And if you drink. If you don't drink, don't drink. It's fine. And we had a party and we played games and we did Cards Against Humanity. And it was just a lot of social interaction. Everyone who wanted to put their cameras on did, and we could all see each other. The other people didn't. It's not mandatory. We're going to be doing that again next weekend.
You didn't do it yesterday?
No, I'm going to do it every second week until the lockdown is over. And literally everyone is invited. If you
sounds fun,
are interested and you're missing stuff, I'll put a link to that down below this so that people can, in the YouTube one, so that people know where to find that. There'll be specific information and times and stuff.
Really
the
cool.
Zoom program is free.
Yeah.
We did have to pay for it because somebody has to own it if you want to call longer than 40 minutes. But we did that, and then now everyone else can just download it for free and join in, and everyone who misses people is encouraged to come hang out. Excuse me. And watch me die of corona. Anyway.
Oh man. Yeah, no, I think like those types of ideas are like really cool. And there are like definitely some positive things that are coming out of like the whole situation. Like it's mostly negative, but at least like every once in a while you can draw something positive out, be it like meeting some people online that you probably would never meet, or just realizing that you like actually value social interaction more than you maybe thought you would, stuff like this.
Well, you can literally, like, going outside and interacting with people and doing things outside of your own place can literally be an escape mechanism. And I think for some people it's also good to be forced to be alone with their own personality for a while. Maybe not that long.
Yeah, but also with like other people, like divorce rates going up everywhere around the world, by the way.
Really?
Yes.
Yes.
Like China has reported some statistics that like suddenly you have to, like, if you don't work anymore, you have to see like your spouse like 24/7. It can get kind of stressful.
Yeah, but it's not conclusive. If the reason is because you're staying with your spouse all the time, or you're just locked in, so you're stressed more, or the corona thing stresses you more, and you just get, because of your stressful, you get more into fights. So it might be both. It probably
might be both, yeah. But the narrative kind of makes sense. Like suddenly you have to like sit at home with each other like all the time. Kind of, I can definitely see that with like some couples that I know.
All right. It's been 2.5 hours. I would say that the PoE section of the podcast is pretty much finished, and we're gonna cut off the show here for the people watching on YouTube or listening on the platforms that we're gonna be looking to bring the podcast to soon. Would you guys quickly want to plug yourselves and say where people can find you for a closing round? We'll start with Yoji. Yoji, where can we find you?
You should mostly find me on YouTube, because that's where I put out most of my content, and also I would arguably say the best content that I do. It's youtube.com/ItsYoji, and I do those. If you ever heard of those trailers where I go like, from the people who made a good game and now they make silly stuff. That's kind of like the videos I make.
Awesome. NeverSink. If we want to have more than just the filter blade.xyz to customize our own NeverSink filter in an amazingly easy fashion, where can we find you while you do PoE stuff?
Sometimes, once in a blue moon, I stream on Twitch TV/NeverSink, and apparently I also have a YouTube channel and a Twitter channel, but those are kind of like secondary, so don't expect like frequent updates, same as frequent streams. So I'm a developer first, but it's especially for those kind of I make a small tradition out of updating the filter live every 3 months, at least for the leaks. So you can catch me there at the start, well, before the start of the leak, updating the filter, finding out some new details about how the changes work. So I think that's primarily how you can find me.
Those are actually also really cool streams. I love tuning into those because there's always some things that I didn't think about that encourage me to think of the league in a different way. Upcoming stuff.
Thanks. They're fun. They're actually very, 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 very stressful. So probably the most stressful thing because there's a lot of pressure. At the same time, there's deadline, and you can't make mistakes, and there's a lot of people out there, and Twitch chat is Twitch chat. But in general, it's still fun.
Yeah, I tried to do like creative streams, like coming up with graphical designs or like even doing video editing. I just can't make it work on stream because I get too distracted between all the different layers of my activities. It's not the same as just sitting down and playing PoE and talking to chat.
When I used to do video editing streams, they actually like worked extremely well for like the meme stuff that I do, because like the viewers would actually like generate meme ideas like while I was editing, and I would end up with like way more content than I normally had. So that for if you do like very like not like guide content or like explain content, but like very creative stuff where you're still like in the creative process while editing, it actually makes a lot of sense. But if you just want to like put on the visuals or the overlays, it's obviously not that interesting.
Yeah, I've been considering making game development streams in the future, but we'll see how that works.
All right, Balor, do you stream anything other than PoE, and where do you stream it? Oh wait, people are probably watching this on your YouTube, so they can find your link there. But talk about it.
You can already find Twitch, Twitter, Facebook now, YouTube. Everything is just BalorMage. Everything is just wherever you think it should be /BalorMage. And I am everywhere all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
Make sure to check out the Quarantini Party, and if you missed the podcast, it's up in full very soon on BalorMage's YouTube, and the next podcast episode will be on the 18th of April, if I'm not wrong. 18th of April, 9 p.m. GMT as usual, which is now 11 p.m. CEST, because we're summertime in Central Europe now. Summertime, boys. Anyway, thanks everyone for tuning in. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and we'll see you in 2 weeks from now.
Bye.